Saintess summons skeletons by morn. Chapter 271, The Furious Old Dragon Lady. What do you mean you drowned it? Stop, you're gonna give this weak old lady a heart attack. Well hey, at least I would become a dragon slayer for real. It would be an honor. I promise to give you a nice and comfortable afterlife inside Bookie. So anyway, I finished first. Do you already know what the last floor is? Killing me off already? I'll have you learn I have 3 perfectly healthy hearts, so it'll be fine even if you burst one. And yes I know, but I am being serious, let us skip the trial, I don't want the angels to get pissed at me bypassing the censor too much again. What is even the censor? Can you talk about that? Oh, it's just a set of orders your scribe can't disobey, Aredes explained, tapping her temple with a finger. Like a leash the system uses to control its scribes and users, to make sure things go how the system wants. Mess with it too much and your scribe'll self-destruct. You don't want that. You sure know a lot about the system. I see what you're trying to do, Sofia. I know things, yes, but until you find a way to prevent the angels from coming to bother me at my door, I'm not telling. Are they even really strong enough to bother you? Aredes looked to the side as if something else had caught her attention, causing her to miss the question. Fine. Well, I think you'll want to hear what comes next, since it has to do with another dragon. Really? And he's not found you yet? Aredes sounded thoroughly annoyed. Sofia had recounted the events up to the moment she learned Seria had been taken away by a dragon and how she was now looking for them. She had even brought out another copy of the dragon's handprint sculpted in bones for her to see. The rabbit dragon woman frowned as she observed the sculpture. Must be a young one, she remarked, and one with very bad manners, at that. I can't believe he would have gotten your sister and left you to rot in an orphanage. It's not like they owe me anything. No. You do not understand. We dragons have many strengths. Do you know what's not one of them? I don't know, being humble? Aredes' face contorted a bit, she tried to look serious but half her mouth still smirked. You could use some of that, you really ought to stop drinking that moonspring water for now, young lady, it's getting to your head. Sorry. It is a bit like alcohol somehow but it has water in the name. Bah. Back to my question, all humbleness aside, we dragons are bad at having offsprings. Terribly horrendously bad. And there is no work around. So, there is something deeply ingrained in our culture. Each person counts. Family is sacred. That it's not how I imagined it at all, but if you say so. A far cry from the fire-breathing calamities of nature the books paints you as. One does not exclude the other. Point is, family is sacred. If you are going to rescue someone, you better damn well see it through all the way and not be a fucking bore leaving the siblings to die some unknown fate. Well, it would have been hard to find me until I got my class and started moving, especially if they thought I was dead because of the tide. Aredes listened to Sofia but her one raised eyebrow said a lot. Sofia almost expected to see the disguised dragon shake her head and call her an idiot or something along those lines. Aredes nodded decisively. Sure. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, better have a good explanation. Explanation? How? What? We're going to go and find out. Aredes didn't let Sofia talk. She came closer and almost whispered, listen, sweetie. This old grandma does not do charity work. Having said that, she took a step back, standing straight like a marble column, with the countenance of an emperor. But if a dragon is tarnishing our glorious name, then, they are going to be getting an earful. And it just so happens that you, my guest, might want to tag along. I couldn't possibly refuse such basic courtesy now, could I? Aredes finished with an awkward but cute wink. Really? Really? Just like that? All this searching around the necromancy, Richard, the ebb, the diviner, and I'm just getting handed what I long for on a silver platter? Because I slammed into the moon of all things? Yes please. No need to react so strongly, come on, we are just going to investigate a troublemaking kidnapper. Ah, but not right away, let us go through things in order, finish your story first. Then we will compare your copy to my breath. And finally we can go. Ah yet. It's all right. Fine. Perfect even. I can wait a few more hours. Thank you. Sofia tried her best to keep the tears from flowing but her vision was blurry anyway. Hoy. Hey. Don't cry. Hey, my ancestors will come back to curse me from the afterlife for making a child burst out in tears. You might just get your Dragon Slayer title yet, if you keep this up. Sorry, really, thanks so much. Aredes audibly sighed, she came closer and ruffled Sofia's hair. It's alright to cry. But keep that for your sister, alright? We're not even there yet. Be strong. Look at you, the old green goblin did not put this crown on your head by mistake, did it? Sofia really tried to calm her emotions, but the moonspring water she had drunk's influence only made it harder. Now she wished she had listened to Aredes' warning after she took her third sip and not kept drinking only to make a fool of herself, but it was too late to take her actions back now. See, that's why kids should do kid stuff, not battle with gods and crap. Leave the shit to us old farts to deal with, would you? You're gonna put us out of a job at this rate. Aredes sat back down, waiting for Sofia to get a hold of herself. Better? She asked after a while, when Sofia had stopped sobbing. Yes. Sorry, again. Gods, Aredes did shake her head this time. She handed Sofia a with cloth to wipe her face. This is all it takes to break you? You really haven't had it easy until now. You should slow down, Sofia. Enjoy life a bit. If you keep only pushing forward all the time, you're going to break at some point. There is more to life than the system's levels and power. You hardly had a choice until now, but don't you think you can slow down a bit? If that shit-stained rag of a scripture god comes to stir more trouble, you're always welcome to rest here, alright? No other god would be foolish enough to approach Moon or me. Sofia woke up in an unknown bed. Wah! Oh, the Moon Castle. I fell asleep on the chair. By reflex, she checked her things, everything was still there, but she was wearing the 3 pieces of her saint set for some reason. And Sofia sensed Perith standing guard right outside of the room. Did Aredes carry me here? What guest? I'm just a freeloader now. But why? Why is an old outcast dragon so nice to me? I didn't do anything to deserve it. Dealing with all these old monsters, powerful people, out of reach. It's always tense. They always have their own motives. I'm left wondering, every time, whether I'm really making a good deal or being taken advantage of. They could all so easily get rid of me. A fly they can just swat away and make disappear. But this time I don't know. I just lost control. Outside the door, Perith moved. The door flung open, revealing Aredes in a different form. Gone were the cute bunny ears and flowing dress. She had 3 pairs of dark horns growing from her head, black eyes deep like an abyss, and a black, battle-worn heavy plate armor, making her look more imposing than the almost twice as tall skeleton standing next to her. She held her helmet under one arm and a rune-covered halberd in the other. Finally awake. I was starting to think you'd be down forever. How long was I out? Oh, about 3 hours. An eternity. Just 3 hours? I feel like I slept for a week. You look refreshed. I slipped the anklet on you while you were down, I hope you don't mind. The 4-piece set effect should have helped. Now come, if you're ready, we have some rot to play with. Ah. I'm coming. But why the armor though? Also, is that a Mithrium halberd? You can tell from there? It is, yes, this baby served me well in my prime, a lot more practical than giant claws. And the armor, well, if we're going to compare rot, we need to do it for real. I was thinking we could give some moon pests a bit of an accelerated diet. Do the moon pests have enough strength to harm you if you're not wearing armor? I'm not going, n/o/vel/b//in.c//om. Not in a billion years. But a fight is a fight. You should respect your opponents and always fight like your life's on the line. And it very well may be. You never know who's hiding in ambush waiting for you to turn your back and stab you 8 times in the kidneys with a jagged poison-coated cursed dagger of dragon slaying. How do you think I lived to become so old? Better safe than sorry. So specific. That totally happened to you, didn't it? And she survived that? Wait yet, no, of course she would have survived. She's a dragon. A level 524 dragon. Chapter 272, Soup. Are you good to go? Aredes asked with joyous impatience. Kind of. Actually, I was hoping to get an hour or 2 to sort out all the system notifications I received when leaving scribe-only mode and get my reward for the quest. Oh right, Sun sent you on one of her fool's errands. What did she promise you that you ended up crashing here in the end? 5 divine essences. Aredes froze, then burst out in a roaring laughter. 5. You got her to promise you 5 essences? Bahaha, robbing sun in broad daylight, aren't you? Good going. I see, I see. Definitely worth crashing into the moon if you want my opinion. Moon must be rolling on the floor laughing right now. Well, I was under the impression that it is a lot too. But I already have 6 from other gods, so. Holy girl, do you faint if you ever stop bragging for half a second? You were pretty convincing with everything until now, so I trust you, but where would you even get 6 of them? I get you nabbed scriptures, and sorrow's pretty obvious, the goblin too. But what about the other 3? There's dread. Let's just say their apostle had met an unpleasant fate and I helped free them, kind of. The last 2 are from the lords. You're being serious? Sofia just nodded. Well, shit. Makes robbing sun seem less impressive, these are in another weight class altogether. I'm surprised they even have essence. We go compare the rot, then I'll give you the time you need, I'll make my own preparations before we go fetch your sister. How does that sound? Perfect. Then get up already, we're going. Aredes led Sofia through the corridors of her empty castle. Surprisingly, they were not going outside but under. There was a hole in one of the rooms of the castle, leading straight down into a deep chasm. Somehow it gave Sofia vertigo for a second. I thought I'd be completely free of that after my last trip to the sun didn't last long at least. Is the hole by design? No, I just cleaned the borders because it looks better that way, but it's the things underneath that dug that tunnel originally. You cleaned it up instead of plugging it? What? They taste nice and crunchy in a soup or lightly roasted, having a direct access is pretty handy. Alright, un/o/vel/b/in.c//om. Aredes put on her helmet and jumped down. Sofia followed. The mana concentration shot up the deeper they fell. Suddenly, Aredes just stopped in mid-air. Sofia deployed her wings but still fell deeper before flying back up to rejoin her. She's walking on mana? Come, I hear some in this hole, Aredes said, pointing at one of many holes in the walls of the chasm. They've learned to hide Depper now, but it's not like they can really escape anywhere, she added before striding in with a bounce in her steps. She has still not told me what we're going after. I wouldn't say no to a good soup though. Doing her best to run after Aredes, Sofia could barely keep up, catching glimpses of her horned form disappearing from view at every corner. I wonder what her true form looks like. After many turns, finally Sofia saw the good for soup pests. Giant centipedes. I'm not so sure about the soup anymore. You first, girl, here. Aredes called out to Sofia as she grabbed one of the frantically fleeing several dozens of meters long black centipedes the thickness of an average horse by digging into its carapace with her fingers. If I use it in such an enclosed space it is going to hit you as well. As if you could harm me with my own weapon, don't worry and shoot. The centipede has a lot of mana, it won't survive long. Holy light inundated the underground gallery, covering the walls and the centipede in a thin layer of veined black rot. Unsurprisingly, Aredes was completely untouched. Oh, pretty. It's quite peculiar seeing it being spread by light. With her hand that held the halberd, she stuck out a finger to scrape to rot on the centipede. She nodded as she observed it, looking around everywhere. She seemed genuinely impressed from the little of her face Sofia could see through her open visor. That's the real thing. The system didn't scam you. The thickness leaves a bit to be desired, but that'll be unavoidable if you're using so little mana. You should work on that after the next trial. Overall, nice. It will kill, Aredes confirmed with a thumbs up and a large grin. She had let the centipede free as she gave her approval, but the creature died just as it was starting to flee. You have defeated Black Moon Mole, leave 137. Couldn't have we tested that on a rock or something? That would have worked too. Sofia asked. No, I needed to see how well it absorbs live mana. If the system's copy was a bad imitation I would have to fix it. Glad to see that it's pretty close to the real thing. Wait for me here, I'll go grab another one to show you how I do it. Sofia couldn't see or feel anything as Aredes disappeared from her vision. No mana movements, she just gone? Before Sofia knew, Aredes was back, another, even larger centipede in hand. It was so big it filled the entire tunnel. Alright. I'm going to try hard to show my lowest output, but just in case. Sofia felt mana from Aredes for the first time. It was only for an instant, but her mana vision had turned brighter than the sun before calming down. A clear mana barrier now isolated Sofia from the outside world. It was somewhat similar to the fake god's bubble, though it clearly worked on different principles. The halberd disappeared of Areti's right hand, and she used that free hand to remove her helmet. She took a deep breath, sucking in the air that for some reason extended from the castle to the underground. Her head tilted back as she inhaled, and then she straightened up again, and very slowly, exhaled a thin black fog. The fog was quick to spread in every direction. Under Sofia's incredulous eyes, the tunnel widened, destroyed by a rabid, furiously pulsating mass of rot that appeared everywhere the fog touched. It was nothing like the thin film Sofia's light produced, and more like the absolute highest degree of violence her rot had ever reached when it battled the ebb for an unending buffet of flying monster corpses. As Aretes finished exhaling the black fog, the few meters wide tunnel was already turning into a full-fledged cavernous and echoing grotto of ridiculous proportions. Some unstable parts collapsed and the debris was instantly consumed by the all-devouring mass encompassing it, failing to even begin to slow it down. The only thing protecting Sofia from certain death was the thin bubble of mana around her. The dragon looked back at Sofia. She sounded happy as her voice echoed around the newly created vast open space. What do you think? Lowest output. That's your lowest output. It's pretty impressive. Does it always spread that far? That far? Be serious, sweetie. It's only a few hundred meters, I could cover the entire moon. Sofia struggled really hard, clenching her teeth to avoid her face from contorting violently. Notes for myself, do not under any circumstances upgrade the rot, never piss off Grandma Aretes. See, I told you everyone avoids me, you get a bit of why now. You can still leave if you want. And no. It's not I mean you can control whenever you're using it, no? It's not an issue. Your body language says otherwise, but your call. Let's go back then. Sofia's gaze returned to the rot still ravenously gnawing at the moon rock all around them. Is it ever going to stop? Just like yours, give it another 20 seconds maybe. We should go actually, this tunnel will likely collapse, let's not cover the castle in dust. Saying this, Aretes dispelled the shield protecting Sofia, and grabbed her by the waist as she ran past mid-air. She let Sofia go once they left the area covered in rot. As they flew back up, Aretes spoke up again. You can return to the bedroom to do your things or follow me if you want. I'll be making us a meal before we go. Anything you want to eat? I'd gladly try anything you make that isn't a huge black centipede. Deal, kid. I'll make you a meal like you've never had before. Sofia decided to follow Aretes in her kitchen. She sat on a chair near to the door and started going through her system notifications as the old dragon hummed unknown tunes while slipping in a pink apron. So many messages, so much experience. I see Iwara and Alith haven't been lazing around either. Lords, how many of these monsters did they kill? This would almost make my Savoln extermination sessions look lackluster. The plant monsters should be from Alith, so these are all from Iwara. Where the hell did Sun send him to? Chapter 273, Madness returns again. So a few hundred plant monsters for Alith, and I don't know how many thousand spirits all with different names for Iwara. These three should be our dungeon bosses, I think. You have defeated Bloomstock Hydra, leave 249. You have defeated Ormoncleith's envoy, leave. You have defeated Knight of the Mirror, leave 249. Looks like Alith was fastest and I was second. I see Mr. Scribe just used my names for the deep creatures. The parasites too. You have defeated Ormoncleith's parasite, leave. You gained a level. Asterisk 10. Remaining debt, 0. You gained a level. Asterisk 15. You gained a level. Asterisk 10. Remaining debt, 0. You gained a level. Asterisk 11. Paid off the debt from the worms, then got 15 levels, 10 more levels of debt from fighting the envoy, and 11 more level UPS after that, taking me right up to 249. And it looks like the deep creatures didn't count for any experience. No levels after the envoy kill, probably because the system couldn't reach me. It doesn't even show a level for the parasites. What else? So many messages. Next in line would be those. Congratulations, you have reached the 4th filter. Be cleansed, be reborn. You will no longer gain experience. Please proceed to the trial site, Tower of Rebirth, distance, 1946007073 m. Sofia had a moment of awe at the number. I can't imagine how much that would have been all the way from the sun. Suddenly big distances are not as daunting. I wouldn't go back to the sun though the weeks of travel in the void were really the worst. Alright, so this is done, what else? Skills? New active skills are available. No specialization alteration this time. I'm only at 27% chance. I don't have any active slots anymore but I could get rid of heal undead already. I'm alright with the spell version I have now, even if it still needs work. Available active skills. Restore, infuse the target with mana 2. Saintess, infuse your next physical attack with the madness. Your undead minions for a short time. That is certainly something. I can let them sit for now, combine the two new ones, or take restore madness. Sofia looked up to see Aredes happily slicing carrots with a regular kitchen knife. Should I bother her for advice? Might as well, right? Lady Aredes? Aredes turned her head back. What lady? Are you trying to flirt? Bulletin, what else should I call you? I don't know. Nobody calls me anything these days really. You did a good job of avoiding it until now too. Do whatever you want I guess. Why did you want my attention in the first place? Remember how I said my skills work? I wondered if you wanted to give an opinion on my next choice. Aredes turned back to her carrots. Sure, just read me your skill parts. Sofia read her 3 available keywords to Aredes. She got an answer without much hesitation from the old dragon. Just take Saintess Madness. Any reason why? Sounds funny. And if I were you, considering you have the rod and your explosives, I would try to keep Restore for something like Restore Land or anything even remotely close to that. Trust me, some way to repair the damages you do is quite valuable. What if I just keep all the keywords for later? And be down 1 skill in your next trial for no reason? If you want to stay on the fast way to level up, you want to go all out. Don't hold anything back. Aredes finished her sentence as she swung the sliced carrots straight into a steaming pot. It feels weird keeping Restore for so long when it's such a good keyword. It's been there forever but sure. It might give me something like a way to increase my OR Parith's damage with physical attacks by the sound of it. A good thing to have considering all the magical attacks you already have. That is very true, fine, I'm taking it. I don't really see what else I could ever end up doing with these keywords anyway. Just to be sure she completely had the spell version of Heal Undead well memorized, Sofia used it a few times, illuminating the kitchen with flashing lights. You have lost the active, Heal Undead. You have acquired the active skill, Saintess. You have acquired the active skill, Madness. It does have a nice ring to it if you ignore the meaning of the words. I would be worried about taking a skill with this name if not for the blessing of the deep. This should be alright. It looks like the name won't change this time but Mr. Scribe still probably needs a bit to get the description right. Speaking of skills, I got some appreciable level ups there too, especially with Runeforged, which makes sense considering how much I used it. Spine of the Black Sun reached level 201. Spine of the Black Sun reached level 202. Spine of the Black Sun reached level 203. Summon Blood reached level 201. Summon Blood reached level 202. Summon Blood reached level 203. Summon Blood reached level 204. Graveyard of the Righteous reached level 201. Runeforged Overlord reached level 202. Runeforged Overlord reached level 238. Fast Reading reached level 65. Fast Reading reached level 66. Fast Reading reached level 67. Fast Reading reached level 68. Fast Reading reached level 69. Way of the Fool reached level 27. Way of the Fool reached level 28. Way of the Fool reached level 29. Sprint reached level 45. Evasion reached level 99. Evasion reached level 100. That sure was a good harvest. My stats climbed nicely too with the levels. Name, Sofia Afinareth. Age, 21. Class, Saintmancer. Level, 249. Health, 2980/2980. Stamina, 21047/21047. Mana, 417/100/417/100. Main specialization, Eclipse Skeleton. Alteration chance, 27%. Secondary specialization, Heat Death. Active skills, 8/8. Spine of the Black Sun, level 203. Summon Blood, level 204. Maiden Banshee, level 249, LV.249. Graveyard of the Righteous, level 201. False Immortality, level 3. Skull Choir, level 201. Reign over Shadows. Saintess Madness, level 1. Passive Skills, 7/8. Blessing of the Deep, 2/4. Valkyria's Rihafen of Sorrow. Exalted Exoskeleton. Venerable Physique of the Primeval Void, Doors of the Light Forging Realm. Bone Dominus, level 2. Iridian Rot. Runeforged Overlord, level 238. Classless Skills, 9/9. Fast Reading, level 69. Way of the Fool, level 29. Sprint, level 45. Identify, level 2. Mana Manipulation. Evasion, level 100. Radiance, level 57. Quintessential. One with Suffering. Special Skills, 1. The Book of Skeletons. Summoned Heroes. 4/4. LV.249 Parath, Holy Bone Plate Mauler Eclipse Skeleton. LV.249 Alith. LV.249 Book of Skeletons, Book. LV.249 Iwarat, Heartless Shade. Mark of Afinareth. This never stops getting longer. Sofia stood up. I'm going outside to receive my quest reward, just in case I explode or something like that. Do you hear yourself talk? Whatever, go on, the meal will be ready in about 20 minutes, so don't be late or I'm eating it all. I'll be right back. Finding a door out of the castle wasn't too hard, after which Sofia left the place completely and floated a bit further where she was only surrounded by moon rocks. Accepting the essences and upgrading VPPV shouldn't be too destructive, in theory, but to be safe Sofia wanted to be in a place she wouldn't regret destroying if something went wrong. And claim the rewards. Rewards delivered successfully. Yet. I don't feel any different. You earned a bonus reward from an unknown patron. To Sofia's complete surprise, a small ice blue box appeared on the ground a few meters away from her. What? Is that Midniset? She walked up to the box and grabbed it. It was quite light. Is it empty? Opening the box, which wasn't locked, revealed a small iridescent ball with a slit opening, embedded in a perfectly sized slot carved directly into the thick bottom of the box. From the deep. Is this made out of parasite blood? There was no explanatory note, but Sofia had a hunch her scribe would know exactly what it was, just like it knew about Afinareth's glove. She identified it. Regulators bobble, this small jingle bell emits a soothing sound that your enemies cannot hear, legend says the happy memories of a lost pet lives inside. Cannot be damaged. Soulbound. Can be permanently attached to a weapon, scabbard, clothing, or armor piece. Sofia's heart fell a bit as she read the description. She grabbed the bell and shook it lightly. Its serene ringing was light and muted like a distant melody playing in the wind. It filled Sofia with a warm sense of comfort. Like all her worries had vanished for just an instant. Thanks, I will keep it preciously. So you did hear me when I said I only needed a bauble from you to have a whole set. This. With a smile on her face, she brought the bell near her scepter. Like a magnet, the bell popped out of Sofia's hand and latched onto the shaft of the scepter, right under the Midniset catalyst. It was held there by two very thin red strings attached to it that seemed to disappear inside of the scepter's grain. She waved her staff a few times, her smile widening ever so slightly every time the bell rang. Alone on the moon, she closed her eyes, focused, and reopened them while bringing up her status again. Back to the real world. It's high time that you evolved, Venerable Physique of the Primeval Void. Venerable Physique of the Primeval Void, Doors of the Light Forging Realm. The Primeval Void was born of the universe's first shadow. Shadow Gathering Realm. A single hit cannot take away more than 99% of your maximum health. You are 50% more resilient to explosions. You are able to see in extremely low light levels and to breathe light. You cannot be hurt by the cold and cannot be traced in the spirit realm. Shadows and light are two faces of a single coin. Light Forging Realm. Starting step, you no longer age. First step, your skin becomes tougher and opaque, 0/1000%, n/o/vel/b//in.c//om. Second step. Light Forging Realm unlocking requirement, possess 10 Divine Essence or more. Current Divine Essence, 11. Scripture, 1. Aphinareth, 1. Dread, 1. Sorrow, 1. Ormancleath, 1. Victory, 1. Sun, 5. Light Forging Realm Breakthrough Method, split your mana into 10, 11, equal parts, and dispose them inside your body in the following order. 1 part to the heart. 2 parts to the head. 1 part to each foot. 1 part to the head. 1 part to each hand. 1 part to the head. The remaining part, to this skill. Sofia did not question anything and simply sat on the ground, following the instructions. Precise handling of her mana while inside her body was something that she could already do with relative ease. The only slightly troublesome part here was splitting the mana in precisely equal parts, which was much harder to do when one could not just look at the number the system gave. The light forging began. Chapter 274, 10,000 Years of Wisdom. Unnatural heat formed inside of Sofia's body. The packets of mana she had spread throughout her body were condensing, reshaping into something new. The heat rose higher and higher, until something changed. Sofia felt a sudden jolt of pain stemming from her heart, and with it came light. From within her chest, bright white light like the sun shone through her flesh and skin, inundating the surroundings. Then, like a sudden migraine, 2 jolts of pure pain through her skull sent Sofia reeling back. Perith appeared behind her, helping her stay upright. 2 more lights appeared, from the points of pain, one a turn grey, the other a vibrant red. The sudden strokes of pain followed the pattern of her mana, illuminating her from within. It was impossible to tell which light was which anymore as Sofia shone like a miniature sundae. Just like she thought the pain was over, Sofia felt something moving in the middle of her chest. It was only mildly painful compared to what came before, but not less unsavory, as she could only describe the sensation as 1,000 bugs crawling under her skin. The bugs spread out, following some grand design, carving new paths inside her flesh, all over her body. The shining motes of mana became agitated once again as the crawling sensation spread. They whirred like a channeled spell about to explode and backlash, but started harmonizing instead. One by one, they were now vibrating at the same frequency. All the lights disappeared at once. Sofia no longer felt any pain, but she was bleeding all over, and the packets of mana were still there. Is it over? She stuttered in her thoughts. The packets of mana collapsed into a single point at the center of Sofia's chest. The pain was swift like a lightning strike, and Sofia erupted into light once again. A singular shining star, likely enough to blind Sun herself, but not for long. The light faded, revealing Sofia's new and enhanced body. A body that was essentially still exactly the same, if one could look past the thousands of glowing veins of light slithering beneath her skin. Out of all the things I expected, I did not expect to transform into a glowing life-sized diagram of blood vessels. And why is it moving? Sofia felt lost, her mind was blank as she observed her hand and the streaks of light undulating inside. She changed to Perith's point of view. Even my face. She opened her mouth, it was the same, her lips, her tongue, everything but her teeth was host to the glowing veins. My hair is probably the only part of my body I wouldn't mind seeing glow, and it's one of the only unaffected parts. Sofia looked at VPPV again. Venerable physique of the primeval void, first step light forging realm. The primeval void was born of the universe's first shadow. Shadow gathering realm. A single hit cannot take away more than 99% of your maximum health. You are 50% more resilient to explosions. You are able to see in extremely low light levels and to breathe light. You cannot be hurt by the cold and cannot be traced in the spirit realm. Shadows and light are 2 faces of a single coin. Light forging realm. Starting step, you no longer age. First step, your skin becomes tougher and opaque, 0/1000%. Second step, further enhance your body through the use of light. Third step. Current step training method, withstand the breath of a chromatic dragon. Complete first step to unlock further steps. Complete all steps and gather divine essence to unlock further realms. The second step hint is basically saying nothing. But at least the opaque part of the first step makes a lot more sense now. Sofia thought as she looked at her skin again, the movements inside made her shiver. The training method is a special level of absurd though. But it's good timing. Oh shit, the time. Sofia flew back to the castle as fast as she could. It hadn't been 20 minutes yet, but not far from it. I'm here on time, right? Sofia asked as she slid into the kitchen. Oh. Yes, food's almost ready. But are you sure you're good? I saw some light from outside, quite something, just like your new look. Oh, yes. Kind of. I know it looks weird but I can't help it. It should go away at some point, but wouldn't you happen to be a chromatic dragon by any chance? n/o/vel/b/in.c//om. Couldn't be furthest from it, no. Why do you ask? Is this related? It is, look. Sofia said as she shared VPPV's description. Aredes untied her apron while she read the system window. That's all right. I can find you one. I think all three of them are still alive. Can't be too hard to coerce one into sneezing on you. Coerce? I'm not sure I want to know the consequences of that. Maybe I asked the wrong person. But let's not let the food go cold, let's use that table in the corner. I usually eat standing anywhere, but I should at least sit down for my guests. The food was nothing special, just a warm and savory home-cooked meal. In short, Sofia found it incredibly good. Aredes was scraping the last bits of sauce from the pot with some hard bread and she finished answering Sofia's questions. So I like to eat often even if I don't need to. It's still something your mind and body yearns for no matter how useless it is. She let out a pleasured moan as she savored the last bits of sauce. Right, isn't your other skill ready by now? You ought to give your scribe a slap or two if it's that slow. I never checked, it has probably been ready for a while but I was too focused on the meal. Can't blame you for that, dearie. So how did it turn out? Actually, please look first, you tell me what you think. Be honest. Aredes didn't answer but Sofia could see the dragon's eyes slowly shifting as she read the description line by line, her expression undecipherable. Do you not have fast reading? Sofia asked, trying her best to sound curious and not impatient. I like to take my time with entertainment. I have plenty of time, all right, I'm done reading. Your skill, it reflects the name well. I'm honestly shocked the system allocates the precious time and resources necessary to assemble spells just for you every time. I would kill to have something like this instead of having to do research by myself. I mean. Yet actually I would. Are you trying to change the subject? Sofia asked calmly while her eyes stared daggers at Aredes, who had stood up to put away the dishes as if the conversation was over. No. Obviously not. The skill seems, yes, usable. Usable? That's not at all what I hoped to hear. Am I getting another completely failed skill like Pristine Essence? It was bound to happen at some point. While Sofia's heart sank, Aredes had gone into a full-fledged rant. You know, it's no big deal, skills really aren't all they're propped up to be. Back in my days, we used to. Saintess madness, the Saintess grabs and throws one of her undead minions. They are infused with a random element and explode on impact, releasing a burst of elemental magic. The power of the burst scales on undead minions' base health and the amount of mana infused, multiplied by the skill's level. Direct hits also inflict a related elemental affliction upon the targets. There can only be one infused minion existing at any one time. You gain a minor magical resistance against the infused element until next use. Next function unlocks at skill level 2. What even is this? A random element, really? It would already be a dubious skill to have if I could choose. And this kills my skeletons. This really isn't it. At least the elemental affliction and the resistance can be useful depending on what elements I get. If I know what I'm going to fight next, I can chain cast with the rat swarm until I get the resistance I want. It's not completely useless. I just don't know if I really need more attack skills when I already have so many. I would have liked another movement of defense skill better. Can't change the keywords though. They weren't good enough that I feel bad about wasting them. And this is why you should always target the eyes first. Aredes proudly declared, concluding her rant that Sofia had unknowingly tuned out of. Grandma Aredes? Yes, child? The dragon lattice demeanor and expression reminded Sofia of the orphanage's kids when the matrons caught them trying to sneak away with extra servings of food. I can't believe you're 5,000 times my age. Would you allow this weak and knave kid to try her new spell on an extremely benevolent and incredibly wise flying lizard? Aha! Aredes laughed nervously then sighed, defeated. Sure, she finally said, rolling her eyes. Just don't go trying to explain to another dragon that you started calling me grandma and that I let you hurl explosive skeletons at my face. They'll think you've been afflicted by Saintess madness for real. Chapter 275, Terrifying. Didn't you say you had birds? It has to be birds, then. The health scaling is something, but the reliability of an attack that will never miss is often preferable. Birds it is, then. Sofia summoned the book and grabbed the first page that appeared when she opened it, without even looking. As the mana entered the book, fog started spreading over the floor of the castle's courtyard. Aredes looked with curiosity. This book hero of yours really is an anomaly. It was designed by the orator after all. It's also baffling the confidence with which you utter these names. Though I have to admit it indeed looks like you're safe. I was practically given an item from each of them. It would be weird if I wasn't safe. Though I was told not to mention the fourth one. Can you really not do anything about them if they're after you? Is there even anyone stronger than you out there? Can anyone do anything? Even Sun was forced to give up on her stuff when they came. Tough subject. As I said, levels kind of lose their meaning later on, thinking about who's stronger than who is kind of irrelevant. And the lords, well, even for me, it's better not to antagonize them. They have always been a mostly neutral party, so truth be told, I don't even know how I would fare against them, but there are 4 of them. Do you see 3 other me around here? So in your super long life, you've never even run into one of them? I've met one, the bookmaker. Aredes sneered. Unpleasant. Did orator speak through her mouth too? That is unpleasant, yes. Sofia waited with bated breath, but there was no sign of the orator showing up. Are you all right, Sofia? Yes, I was just waiting to see if he was going to show up. This guy has a tendency of appearing at convenient times. This guy, she says, enough blabbering, get on with the throwing, young lady. Yes ma'am. So how do I do this? Sofia opened her hand and one of the small bird skeletons jumped in by itself. Tuck your wings, you'll be easier to throw. I'll use 1,000 mana to begin with. Sofia activated Saintess Madness. She could feel the bird being magically stuck against her palm as she controlled the skill to allow a slow trickle of mana to enter the skeleton. Casting seems really easy. I can manage the mana flow without trouble. I could probably dump all my mana in there in 2 or 3 seconds. She felt her hand become slightly colder. Ice element. You have been affected by the temporary effect minor ice resistance. Out of anything I could get, that's the worst one. Entirely useless. VPPV already does that. As the mana in the bird approached the 1,000 Sofia was aiming for, she was going to warn Aredes about the throw. Before she could do that, her body was irresistibly compelled to move. Her right foot planted itself firmly into the ground as her torso twisted like a coiled spring. Her left foot left the ground, practically throwing itself forward as her arm swept back in a motion she didn't control. Before she could even understand how the skill could puppet her like that, her body lunged forward, releasing the bird at the perfect time with a violent bang. Aredes wasn't standing far, the bird hit her squarely in the face before Sofia could even react. The old lady didn't even flinch when the bird hit her and exploded in a burst of sharp spikes of ice. There was nothing left of the bird when Sofia managed to take back control of her body to stand upright, and only a few small chunks of ice on the ground were left as a result. Aredes suffered not a scratch, even her clothes were completely unaffected. You broke the sound barrier without even trying, nice. Sorry about that, I didn't know it would go by itself, I wanted to warn you but... Kid, what are you worrying about exactly? I saw exactly what happened, and I could have avoided that in my sleep. I'm fairly confident that nothing you could even try would as much as make me lose 1 health point. So you really don't have to be so conscientious about how you hit me. You have my permission, so just go all out with those birds. Let's find out how many elements you got in there. 12 elements was the answer. There could be more, but so far this was how many they had found. Each element seemed to be as likely to appear as the others. Every time, Sofia's body would uncontrollably throw the skeleton by itself at incredible speeds. When she tried aiming away from Aredes, the birds had no issue correcting their trajectory to still always hit. The strength of the magic burst scaled as advertised with the mana and health of the skeleton, but the duo found out that the size of the magic burst was dependent on the size of the skeleton itself. They hadn't tried too many of Bookie's summons, as it ran out of fog pretty quickly when they tried ramping up the size of the skeletons Sofia threw, but notably, she had no issue throwing the stone ogres just as violently as she threw the birds. The skill did all the heavy lifting, literally and figuratively. Aredes had reported what the afflictions were even if she was technically unaffected, so Sofia now had a well-organized list of the effects, as well as a good understanding of how much mana she should put into the skill depending on the strength she wanted it to have. The madness list. Ice, lingering frost, the next spell will require a longer casting/channeling. Fire, mana burn, for 5 seconds lose as much health as mana used. Lightning, electrical pulse, if applicable, the target may be temporarily immobilized. Stone, terrified, whenever receiving physical damage, turn the damaged body to stone. Wind, vortex, projectiles are attracted. Water, drenched, upon receiving another affliction, double it. Light, beacon, for 1 minute the Saintess and allies know precisely where the target is. Shadow, darkness, hinders the sense of vision. Space, anchor, for 10 seconds, prevents teleportation. N/O/vel/b//in.c//om. Plant, fertile grounds, magical vines grow on the target, sapping mana away. Flesh, withering, for 1 minute, cannot regain health. Sound, brittle, bones, armor, magical constructs and items become easier to break. Sofia frowned, she adjusted her position in her chair and asked for the second time, "Are you really sure it said terrified?" Aredes shrugged, turning a page of the book she was reading. "Test it on yourself if you don't trust me." "I trust you but I still don't get it." "No need, the effects are surprisingly good. Especially the fire one." "It depends on the opponent. I'm more scared of the sound effect." "Really? It looks fine but in a battle against any kind of mage, the fire affliction looks much stronger. You don't understand the annoyance that a broken scale is. What's a bit of damage in comparison to a broken scale?" Aredes closed her book and put it back on the table. "Overall the skill is fine, as long as you can fix that delay between the throw and the moment you get control of your muscles back. Just a matter of practice, I believe," Aredes commented, imitating Sofia's throwing motion. "I'm still a bit underwhelmed that the element is random, but at least the good effects make up for it. I expected much worse. I can work with this, and there's room for shenanigans with the skeleton's blessings and abilities. I can alter the trajectory with Bone Dominus too. You should be able to choose the effect you want eventually. Maybe with higher levels of the skill, or just with enough manual practice. The way the magic works is a bit unconventional by the looks of it, but I don't want to say too much until I'm sure. Another thing to worry about later then. Thank you for helping me, your feedback is invaluable." Aredes hid her face with both hands. "Oh you, stop it, you're going to make me blush," she answered in a playful tone. "Anything else you need help with before I go teach some manners to an impolite youngling?" I had something but it's a bit. Can I even ask?" It feels a bit shameful to ask after she's already done so much, but at the same time. "Go on, be greedy, you're a child by dragon and almost by human standards. You can be a bit unreasonable sometimes. Whatever it is, just ask." "Can I have a scale?" Aredes narrowed her eyes. "A scale, you say? Do you know what these are worth?" she asked, curious. Sofia shook her head. "Well, they're worth a lot. Each scale of a dragon is precious, grown over hundreds, thousands of years. An important, irreplaceable part of our natural protection. Not something that can be healed or faked with some magic. We cannot just give it away like that. If we break or lose one, it's going to take forever to grow back. So I cannot give you one of my scales, no." "I see, sorry, I was presumptuous to ask. You have already been an unexpected and previous help that I hope I can repay someday." Sofia apologized with a bow, her golden hair falling before her face. "But I can give you someone else's." What? Have you never killed another human and pilfered their bones? What do you think? And what do you even need a scale for in the first place? The biggest limiting factor of using Angel's Bolt is that it destroys my arm when I input too much mana. Even mithril melts. So if I had a dragon scale armor for my right hand and arm." Aredes nodded along as she listened to Sofia's explanation. "Well, kid, I'm not the best smith around, but I can probably do that. Not for free, though. I'll do anything. But if it's going to take long, I would rather go find Seria first." Chapter 276, Put the Scale Before the Dragon. "Anything, you say? I admire your enthusiasm, but you shouldn't say such things. But no matter, here are my conditions. First of all, on your next encounter with the verbose lord, ask them about the location of the fissure. They will know what you mean, just say that I'm the one asking. I want to know where it is. Good so far? I can try, if he gives me enough time to ask. But I cannot guarantee orator will give an answer. It goes without saying. Aredes approved, smirking. That alone will pay for most of it. But that is not all. My second condition is that if you ever reach level 499, you must come to me first. Again, I will not explain the context, you can only trust me and promise me this. Is that supposed to be detrimental to me in some way? Not really. But you are giving up your freedom of choice in that one matter. That being said, I am only asking for a promise, not a binding quest or contract, so you can use your better judgment. So you're saying that if I'm no longer happy with it then, I can just renege on my promise and betray you? But even if I wanted to, I don't know if anyone would ever have the guts to betray you. She was so straightforward until now, so why the sudden riddles? Sofia thought about it during a long silence. She liked to fulfill her promises when she could afford to, so she would rather not make one she wouldn't want to follow through with. She had a feeling that it probably had something to do with the level 500 trial, but since Aredes wasn't going to explain, all Sofia had to go on was her evaluation of the old dragon's personality. I promise. If and when I reach level 499, I will come to you first, whatever that means, if you have fulfilled your part of the exchange. But only if we have not had a severe falling out. That's an interesting backdoor to give yourself even when you know that there isn't any kind of magic binding this. I'm glad you accepted, then, don't forget to come tell me when you learn about the fissure. I'll be making the piece of armor you want myself, that will take a few months, so we'll focus on that later. Actually let me bring you some samples, I'll let you choose. Aredes stood up, giving a sign to Sofia that she should wait there, but she had to ask, samples? Just you wait here, kid, I'll be back in a minute. Aredes strolled out of the room. Sofia could follow her movements dispersing the ambient mana for a while. Her mana senses had greatly improved with the addition of Sun's essences to Quintessential, and she could feel its lightest movements at quite a distance. But Aredes eventually walked out of her perception range. A few minutes later, the appearance of an alarming mass of mana alerted Sofia from the opposite direction. What in the world? Did someone else enter the castle? With how slowly the mana moved, it was probably still Aredes, but why would she leave toward one side and come from the other? Just in case, Sofia sent Perith out, and through his vision, she could confirm that the being approaching was indeed Aredes. She was carrying a few huge scales which looked like oversized shields. This much mana is from just a few scales. Aredes walked into the room, unceremoniously dropping the invaluable and humongous dragon scales in front of Sofia. There you go, pick one. The performance of the final product will depend on your choice. First of all, I need to rethink my image of dragons if those are normal-sized scales. Because forget an armor, you could probably make an entire set of heavy armor with two of these. Or like, a single one for a lith. Also, how the hell do I choose? Sofia stood up because she couldn't even see Aredes anymore, hidden behind the scales. How should I pick? Just ask your scribe, take your time, Aredes answered nonchalantly as she sat down and picked up her book. Right. 5 scales is the smaller black scale one of yours? Yes, I didn't think I still had any, but there it is, it was lost in a corner of the pile. That's one of my baby scales, kind of like how you humans lose your teeth. They're not nearly as good as adult ones, but I thought I might as well give you the choice. Baby scale, it's still larger than my mithril shield. I've never used that now that I think about it. Not many opportunities in Sun's temple. Let's see what we have here. Sofia started by identifying the largest scale of the bunch, a dark green one with many ridges. Scale of Daragma, a remnant of the 10-winged terror of the sky, Dragon Lord Daragma. Level, 500. Grade, Draconic. That's it. Oh, right, this is a magical item so I'm gonna have to pay for the advanced analysis. How much? Scale of Daragma, advanced analysis equals 22,222 mana. That's it. I feel like I'm repeating myself, that's less than the scepter was to analyze. Weird, but sure. Scale of Daragma, a relic of the 10-winged terror of the sky, Dragon Lord Daragma. The remnants of Daragma's authority sleep within the scale, possibly granting items created with it a bonus of movement and casting speed. Angel's Bolt Resistance Grade, B. Level, 500. Grade, Draconic. Angel's Bolt Resistance Grade. You spoil me, Mr. Scribe, thanks a ton. B grade resistance. I assume it's like the blessing and gachapon box grades where the closer to A the better the value, except for S being better. Let's see how the others compare. Next is the smooth white one. Scale of an Omen, a relic of an Omen, the Holy Dragon. The remnants of her authority sleep within, possibly granting items created with it the ability to purify curses, afflictions, poison and rot. Angel's Bolt resistance grade, A. Level, 500. Grade, Draconic. Purify rot, I don't think I would ever take this effect over the previous one, but the durability is better, and it is the main thing I'm looking for. Then the red scale with spikes. Scale of a Dragon, a relic of a dragon whose name has been lost to time. Weak remnants of its authority sleep within, possibly granting items created with it an unknown effect. Angel's Bolt resistance grade, S. Level, 450. Grade, Draconic. The level is lower but the resistance is better. Unknown effect though. Could be anything. Sofia asked, from behind the scales which were all propped up against the table, were these 4 adult scales all from dragons you killed? Aredes looked up from her book. All? No, the red one I picked up from the green one's possessions. Don't ask me who it's from because I have no clue. So you did kill the other 3? Not my business, but that might be a clue as to why you're an outcast. Also, if there are scales remaining, does that mean she killed them without using the rot? Somehow that's much scarier. In an effort to avoid getting sidetracked too much, and because she was impatient to depart and follow Seria's traces, Sofia made a conscious effort to focus her thoughts on the matter at hand. Fourth is the shiny and wavy dark blue scale. Scale of Thrake, a relic of Thrake, Hermit of the Depths. The remnants of his authority sleep within, making it nigh impossible to enchant in any way. Angel's Bolt resistance grade, SS and N/O/vel/B//in.C//OM. Level, 500. Grade, Draconic. Not SS but SS+. That's a thing? Is there an SSS and an SSS and grade 2? Wasn't Alith's blessing SSS actually? I guess it must really be a thing. Also I'm noticing now, but do all dragons have a title? Holy Dragon, Terror of the Sky, Hermit of the Depths, Outcast. Outcast isn't really on the same level. Speaking of which, the last, tinier scale, was Aredes' baby scale. It was black like the depths of the void, smooth and aerodynamic, with a lustrous and glossy shine like varnished wood. Immature scale of Aredes, a scale of Aredes, guardian of the moon. Slivers of her authority remain within, possibly granting items created with it the ability to decay mana constructs. Angel's Bolt resistance grade, A. Level, 400. Grade, Draconic. Decay mana constructs, so a way to apply the rot to things like shield arrays, possibly? That's really worth considering. And I guess there are minuses too. Makes sense if there are pluses. But really, how big is the difference between say a B and an A then? Might as well just use a numbered scale at this point. Tough choice. It's going to be hard to decide if I want to go purely by durability or if I should value the side benefits a lot. Can you tell me how strong the effects are likely to be? Depends on your luck, but it's always only going to be an added bonus, no matter which one you pick, though casting speed is always good. It is, but it's also the worst resistance grade. Chapter 277, Can't Spell Dragon Without Grand. Sofia contemplated her options. She quickly decided that since what she wanted first and foremost was protection for the bolts, she wouldn't settle on a low-grade resistance, no matter the bonus. Then the question was, S-grade resistance with a random bonus and enchantments, or SS and resistance with nothing on it. What are the chances that it'll outpace the resistance of the S-grade? It's still a dragon's scale. Even the lowest grade would probably last me until level 400, wouldn't it? But then again, when am I getting another chance to get an item made from dragon parts by a dragon? I would rather never outgrow it. Seeing Sofia take forever to decide, Aredes looked up from her book. Having troubles? Maybe I can help? I was thinking I might just get the blue one since it's the sturdiest, but I'm having second thoughts. The red one can be enchanted and the unknown effect could be good without compromising too much durability. I'm surprised that you even consider taking Thrakes, Sofia. That's some really long-term investment. Any of the other ones would be more useful for your next 150 to 200 levels. The angel bolts are pretty crazy, so maybe I'm being a bit too careful, but I would hate to have the item you made for me become useless too soon, so it's really hard to choose, Sofia sighed, leaning back in her chair and looking at the ceiling. I'm really bad with choices, between the keywords and everything. Choosing between things that can cripple my growth if I pick wrongly, all the time, it's tiring. Aredes patiently listened to Sofia's rant. She thought for a second before giving advice, in her own style. Overwhelmed by choice, well, to anyone else I would say there's no need to sweat it so much. But in your case asking for help is my advice. Just look where you are, I let you in my home, and you're choosing between dragon parts. Who could give you good advice I wonder? I thought. Tchh, let me finish. I let you choose by yourself because you look like you value making your own choices in life. Even with your skill, you know that when you asked me, you already knew deep down what you were going to take. Be honest. Wanting to take control of your own fate like this, I respect it. But you also need to learn to depend on others a bit, not always, but when the situation calls for it, then without a doubt. N/O/vel/b/jn.c//om. Not wrong. Then please, help me choose, Grandma Aredes. Now we're talking business. Alright, pick the blue one. Really? I was sure you would tell me to pick the other one considering the comments you made before. Well, honestly, it's better for me if you pick anything else, because Thrake's scales are a giant pain to work with. Just like he was a giant pain to get rid of, but that's beyond the point. Then why? Aredes stood up to grab the red scale of a nameless dragon. Look. Sofia saw the arm muscles of Aredes swell. She was exerting a lot of pressure but the scale held perfectly within her hand. She's trying to break it. Then appeared a dense flow of mana, perfectly contained within her arm. The mana in the scales was already a bit overwhelming and yet Sofia could feel the change. Aredes' arm trembled, her face contorting because she was clenching so hard. With a clunk, a chunk of the red scale the size of Aredes' hand was broken off. She smiled and waved to show off the broken piece. See, that took some effort. Now, there aren't many things or people around who can exert so much strength, but in the end, it broke. You'll get some fancy bonuses, yes, and I can add some magic on top, maybe one of those soul links, and perhaps another defensive function. But you won't get the reliability of knowing it absolutely won't break. And sometimes just having one less thing to worry about is exactly what you need. With Thrake's scale, let me tell you, you can even go tell the system to fuck off, because it's not breaking it. Can you really make armor out of it if it is that tough? Of course I can, I have my ways. Developed specially for this bastard's remains, even. It's boring, hard, and takes forever, but I can work with it. And honestly if they were any tougher I wouldn't be able to do even that. So this is how it is. Also, though you cannot have any magic on it, you can look at it that way, nobody else can use any magic on it. It's good stuff, essentially unbreakable. Actually, won't that be an issue? Can I even cast my bolt through it? Unless I craft your armor inside out you can. All dragon scales share that one thing in common, they let us use mana while defending us from it. It can only go one way, you can test it, just pick one of those up and send some mana against each side. Sofia did not doubt Aredes' words but she tried by curiosity. She was still hesitant but decided to trust Aredes again. She had to admit it, unbreakable armor does sound good. Aredes sighed, complaining that it was going to take forever, and that Sofia would have to come back on the moon after waiting at least 4 or 5 months if she hoped to see the finished product. While doing so she used weird magic to make a copy of the shape of Sofia's arm and right shoulder. While she was letting this happen, Sofia asked a question that had been in her head since Aredes said she had killed this Thrake dragon with such hard scales. How did you kill him? We have no scales on the inside, sweetie, Aredes replied with a perfectly normal smile. Right, I'll remember I need to get swallowed whole if I ever fight a dragon. Sofia and Aredes were walking towards the external gates of the castle. Didn't you say you had a map? Show me. Here it is, Sofia answered, taking her bone map out of the storage ring. Really down there then? Honestly I have no idea whose kid that could even be, no dragons around these parts, none that I know of at least. But admittedly I haven't been paying that much attention the last few thousand years. Well, let's get flyin'. Do we have to worry about the Leviathan? I heard it attacks anything that flies over it. Nah, the big thing is annoying but all things considered, its territory isn't too big, we can just approach the planet from another angle. I think I'm going to have a hard time following you. Following? You're not following, little one, you'll hop on my back, just don't get in between two scales if you don't want to get crushed. You have this thing which cancels acceleration forces, right? Be sure to have that up the whole time. Oh, on your back. I can only keep that up for a minute. That's plenty. Now just stand right here. Aredes took a few steps outside of the castle, lowered her stance a bit and jumped up and forward. She was taking distance quite fast, when her body suddenly collapsed in on itself. In a fraction of a second all that was left was a small flying ball of black energy. In a bright flash of light, the ball expanded, revealing Aredes' true form. Her draconic body spread out like a prisoner forcefully breaking out of its chains. Sofia's mind blanked so much at the sight she even forgot to curse. Her legs went a bit weak. In the sky the gargantuan form of Aredes flew up, her black scales reflected the light of the moon as she ascended, propelled by 6 giant wings. The 3 jaws of her singular head, crowned by 6 large and sinuous horns, pierced the night, opening the way for her sleek and long body, followed by a long and majestic slithering tail. Turning in the sky, Aredes flew back down as fast as she had flown up. She landed about 100 meters away from the castle, her massive form supported by 4 stout legs. She created giant clouds of moon dust as she touched ground. There was no need to even mention Sofia's mana senses, merely standing even at that distance from the dragon, she could feel thick tides of mana washing over her, pushing her and blowing her hair back like violent gusts of wind. Stop gawking and get on, kid. Aredes' voice resounded in Sofia's head. It was the happiest she had ever sounded. Sofia still had a hard time accepting the reality of the beast in front of her, but she obeyed the command nonetheless, deploying her own wings. She could fly by riding on Aredes' overwhelming mana easier than she ever could in any normal environment. Without giving it too much thought, she flew up to Aredes' neck. She quickly settled on the middle ridge of a scale taller than herself, grabbing onto one of a few small protruding spikes with both hands. Aren't you forgetting something? The bewildered Saintess was just now regaining her ability to formulate coherent thoughts which weren't all a stream of expletives. Rune-forged Overlord, 3rd tier. Her arms, chest, and wings lit up with 1,000 runes. She could see Aredes' muscles tighten. The moon suddenly teleported far away. Chapter 278, Obsidian Mountain. Aredes flew around the planet, drawing a wide curve in the sky to join the sunlit side and quickly coming closer to the surface. Sofia felt a surge of heat as the sky turned from black to blue, but the sensation was instantly drowned out by the dragon's mana. Before she could reflect on what happened, they touched ground, Aredes stopping almost instantly and landing against the flank of the highest mountain Sofia had ever seen. Looks like you held out well. The ruffian who took your sister should be somewhere in this mountain range, though that's not saying much. It won't take long to find him, but we need to stay here a bit, angels coming. As if on cue, 9 beings of light and mana flew in from different directions. They stopped at a respectful distance. 9 of them. The system is definitely taking her seriously. I guess the one that's advanced closer is negotiating with her? They must be talking in each other's head. About half a minute later, the angels backed off, leaving Sofia and Aredes alone atop the mountain. There we go. Can't even move without these botherers ganging up on an old lady, can you believe that? Anyway, let's see where I can find a good source of mana. Aredes' massive head turned around, she slowly surveilled the horizon. 3 spots in the surroundings, no, 2. They still left an angel behind, unbelievable. The system must be turning parano. Anyway, 50% chance, let's just check the closest one. The dragon jumped and landed directly near her destination. It's underground, let's see. What meaning does the closest one have if everything is a single jump away? This looks like any other snowy mountain. Do we need to dig? Aredes stuck her head against the ground, her horns digging deep trenches. Not a dragon, that's a kleptra's nest. Better get away from this before it gets angsty, don't want to deal with that. We're going again. Another continental crossing jump later, the duo landed in front of a massive, uninhabited mountain. The entire mountain was covered in buildings of a strange architectural style with lots of vegetation, paved roads, and open courtyards. There seemed to be a number of dueling arenas all over the top half, while the lower half was mostly rural-looking abodes with cultivated fields like there was around Einstein. Pretty sure we found your sister, kid. Get off, I need to size down before they freak out too much. I'm not going to say it, but I'm pretty sure it's too late for that. Sofia still flew off from Aredes' neck, who only took a second to become the same refined and mature lady Sofia knew her as, it was the form with her horns, but she also had a black tail this time. Focusing back on the mountain and its panicked inhabitants, Sofia was surprised to see it was mostly orcs. Green-skinned, red-skinned, tall, short muscular, lean, male and female orcs, hundreds of them. There were also the odd beige-skinned humanoid here and there as well as a few other races that Sofia couldn't quite put a name on. She looked at Aredes. This orc city is where a dragon lives? Seems so, Aredes answered. She waved her hand, a surge of her mana covering the entire mountain. The panicking people all stopped in their tracks at once. They all returned to their previous occupations as if no giant black dragon had ever shown up. What did you just do? Short-term memory loss. Do you use that often? Pretty much only for situations like these. I never used that on you, if that's what you meant to ask. And no, I wouldn't dare. Besides, I'm probably immune to that. All is good then. Do you want to go first or should I lead the charge? Can you not make it sound like this is a war? I would appreciate it if you lead the way. I'm not too sure I can even fly straight right now. Nervousness before the grand reveal. Alright, I'll go slow, just follow me. I don't know why, but the big guy isn't coming out, so we'll need to go inside. Inside the mountain? Exactly, but let's scope things out slowly if you don't mind. I'm curious about this mountain settlement.n/o/vel/b/in.c//om. Sofia followed Aredes to the base of the mountain, where a grand stairway started, guarded by 4 orcs with halberds, wearing weird purple and orange uniforms. They all identified as warriors of levels just above 100. The largest of the 4 orcs blocked the stairs as Aredes walked closer. Halt. Further in is territory of the Great Obsidian Mountain sect. Unless you have a permit we cannot let you in. The orc put up a tough front but Sofia caught him looking at her and almost taking a step back by reflex. The other orcs were standing behind, their weapons at the ready. They were all ever so slightly turned toward her. Right, I still look like a freak glowing monster in the Obsidian Mountain sect? People openly announce they take part in shady organizations now? Are we supposed to know what this sect is? This really isn't the human continent. As Aredes accepted to take the lead, she naturally would take care of all the talking. We do not have one. But maybe you can still let us in? She continued, shaking a small pouch of coins she had produced out of nowhere. The clinging coins clearly caught the attention of the orc, but he quickly strengthened his resolve. You dare try to bribe us? We do not take kindly to such underhanded acts. Leave this place at once. Sofia saw Aredes shrug and wave her hand. The 4 orc guards stopped. They looked lost for a second. No way, did she just? Wah, halt. Further in is territory of the Great Obsidian Mountain sect. Unless you have a permit we cannot let you in. Sir, I am merely looking for this child's sibling. They have been separated young. We have reasons to believe she is a member of your great sect. The orc's expression softened slightly but it was right back to completely suspicious as soon as he looked at Sofia again. This child of yours is certainly special. Perhaps their sibling could indeed have been chosen as a disciple if she bears a similar complexion. Some of our elders do seek out special and talented children to train, but I fear we do not have any weak-looking shiny-veined humans among our ranks. I get that I look weird, but weak, I guess they cannot see my level. Aredes can hide hers, maybe she's hiding mine too. I can't believe none of these 4-second filter guards would have identified. You misunderstand, her sibling does not share a similar affliction. The guard looked back at his colleagues, then he addressed Aredes again. Do you know her sibling's name? Anything else about their appearance? We might know them. There aren't too many humans to have joined us through the last few decades. She would probably be about the same size, with similar hair. Her name is Seria. The guards all brandished their weapons. Their expressions of suspicion and worry had turned to anger. Spittles flew from the orc guard leader's mouth as he raged. You dare try to impersonate our inner disciple's lost one. Are you more of the Thundercloud Palace's spies? Scram before I paint the pavement in your blood. If the scribe tried to write down Sofia's thoughts at that instant, it would be something along the lines of. Aredes rolled her eyes and waved her hand. She smiled at Sofia. Looks like this chest holds the treasure you've been looking for, kid. I'm happy for you. I took a bit longer for the orcs to regain their pace this time. The leader didn't understand why he was pointing his weapon at strangers. After awkwardly straightening up, he addressed the 2 invaders again. Halt. Further is in the territory of Great Mountain Obsidian sect. Unless you are a permit you cannot let in. This yet? Oh, my apologies, it seems we came at a bad time. Someone was supposed to let us in. We will be back with them, Aredes answered before grabbing Sofia's hand and turning back. And madam, we can look them for if you give us the name. The orc guard hailed as they walked away. Aredes waved him off, thank you, but worry not for us, we can wait. She then led Sofia away, peacefully walking along the road, taking a few turns until the guards were far enough. You're really silent, Sofia. How are you feeling? I don't know. I thought I was ready but... TSSK, don't worry, you saw how they reacted, I think it's fair to say Seria thinks you died during the thing. Do you think she could be anything but overjoyed to see you again? What else, they called her an inner disciple. Sounds like a somewhat important title, no? And they were ready to defend her, in a way. That's all rather good news. Yet, this it's reassuring. Thank you, Aredes. I can't imagine what I would be going through had I tried coming here alone. It probably would not be that bad. Are you ever really alone? I know a big bony guy who's been looking over you non-stop the entire time you were with me, and something tells me that's just his usual thing. You can trust him, I think. Thank you too, Parath. But enough with the feelings, young girl. We haven't found your sister yet, so let's go for phase 2 of my evil plan, entering the sect illegally. Or legally, I guess. I have these. Aredes exclaimed, brandishing 2 rectangular pieces of green gemstone, each with a small leather cord probably used to tie them around a belt or use them as necklaces. These are guest entry permits. Stole them. Oh? Where? When? Aredes winked, and tossed one to Sofia. Chapter 279, Young Elders, Old Youngsters. Sofia followed Aredes through the paved roads and stairs of the Obsidian Mountain sect. Most people looked curious about their identity, but seeing the entry permits around their necks, no one stopped them. Are you just walking randomly? Sofia asked after a while when they were on a path with no one else in the vicinity. Not really. The entry point inside the mountain with the most guards is at the top of the mountain, so that felt like a good place to start. We need to get inside? Well, I haven't located anyone looking like you outside, so she's probably there. The dragon's there too. Then can I not just get us inside through the ground? There's protection, a dragon lives there, remember? Honestly, I'm surprised he's still not coming out, because there's no way he doesn't know I'm coming. Preparing his defenses? Sofia tried, only getting a laugh out of Aredes. As if he could defend. I'm being polite by respecting his home, but nothing he can ever do could stop me from getting in there if I want to. Let's just keep walking, see if something happens before we reach the entrance. When they reached the highest third of the mountain, they were stopped by a single guard, human this time, looking like a young adult in a golden uniform. Fighter, LV.300 plus. Some guard that is. This guy could rule a kingdom on our continent if he wanted. Sorry ladies, only inner disciples of our sect are allowed on the peak. Oh, sorry, we did not know. Aredes started, we were told the sect leader wanted to meet us. What should we do? He does? What business do you have with our esteemed leader? Indeed. But are you certain a guard is in the right to know about such matters? The guard coughed. Then puffing his chest ever so slightly, he answered, My lady, it is only normal that you wouldn't know, but I am an elder of this sect, I guard this place to protect those inside. If anything I should not handle showed up, our great sect master would come directly, so there is no need to worry about anything. All right, girl, tell that man what your second trial ranking is, Aredes commanded with a faint smile. The guard seemed unimpressed. Oh, we're doing this? System-enforced lie protection is nice to have, I'm first, Sofia said like it was nothing. Boss got dethroned? That doesn't seem right. The guard produced a scroll out of a storage ring, unrolled it and activated the magic within. Can you say that again, please? Illusion and lie detection. Aredes explained telepathically. I ranked first in the ranking spire. I'm currently still number 1. Fuck me sideways, boss really got overtaken so fast, no wonder the leader would want to meet you then. Well, congratulations on your ranking, can't believe so many people get past floor 96. Give me a second. The man searched within the inner pockets of his uniform, fishing out a whistle. There was no sound when he blew into it, but Sofia could see streams of mana leaking out. Boss? 3 seconds later a red-skinned orc in a very fancy sect uniform fell from the sky and landed near the road, kicking up some dust. Is something the matter, Elder Zent? Supporter, LV.250+. Take my post for a while, Curtis, I have guests to handle. It will be my honor, Sect Elder. Thank you. Now, ladies, please follow me. Elder Zent, which Sofia found was a hilarious name considering the man looked like he was 17, took them all the way to the entrance of a golden pavilion near the peak of the mountain. They did not pass by many people on the way, but everyone in that part of the sect was level 200 at the lowest. 8 guards guarded the estate, 3 orcs, 2 dwarves, 2 humans, and an elf, all also above level 200, 2 of them even above 250. Like the elite forces of a country all regrouped on a single mountain. This feels wrong. And there are multiple places like these? Thundercloud Palace or whatever the name was. Now that I think about it, the Elven capital is pretty much the same thing. Maybe the high-level people just have a tendency to want to live together? I hope Alith and Ilwerat aren't worrying too much. The guards did not stop them, some of them greeting the elder as he went through. The golden wood the pavilion was made of was surprising, but Sofia couldn't admire it too much. The elder stopped in the middle of a large ritual circle. Please stand still until the ritual fully activates, he explained as he powered it up. Some kind of security check? The environment around the trio changed from the golden house to a closed room. Ah, teleportation. I guess we're inside the mountain now. Are these doors made of wood and paper? This room reminds me a bit of Old Breeze's dojo. The real thing is on this continent too, I guess it's just the popular architecture around here. Zent slid the doors open, revealing a very long, straight corridor. All the doors look the same. This whole place is lit with light stone lanterns. That has to be annoying to maintain, these are too small to stay lit for too long before needing a mana refill. Aredes was also looking around as if the place interested her, but Sofia could hear her voice in her head. He's not far. Let's see what he has to say. Zent led them to a door that looked exactly like every other one. He knocked twice on the wall. Sect leader, your guests are here. A somewhat muted male voice answered from the other side. Aha, yes, my guests, thank you Zent, you can return to your post. My pleasure, sect leader, Zent answered, bowing to the door before nodding to Sofia and Aredes, and walking back the way they came. A long silence followed, during which Sofia could see Aredes' smile slowly fade away. Please come in, the uneasy voice called from inside. The door slowly slid open by itself. The room seemed to be some kind of alchemical research facility. Everything was clean and white, the tables covered in dried plants and strangely shaped glassware. A human with slick black hair and narrow eyes was sitting behind a table covered in papers. Sofia could see his legs shaking wildly despite being planted firmly on the polished floor. Artisan, LV.400+. W welcome. Oh, venerable guardian. I was inconvenienced. And could not come out to welcome you. What owes me the honor of your visit? His forced smile pained to hide his discomfort. A bead of sweat rolled down his face as he spoke. Guess. Aredes replied, her voice showing no emotion. The man's expression twisted further. Despite his best efforts, he kept stuttering as he answered, I have no recollection of ever doing something worth the attention of the mighty guardian. Are you sure? She asked again, in a more playful way this time. Extremely sure. I have been doing nothing of interest. Nothing at all. Good. Whose son are you? What's your name? The man cleared his throat anxiously. I am Zafir, son of Vilakir. No way. Lak has a kid now? She never wanted one before. How old are you? 640. So young, and you're already running a place with so many people? Not bad. You can stop shaking, I'm not here for you. Zafir seemed to relax a bit, before going right back to his previous state. Then why? Do you need this human to enter my sect? He tentatively asked, looking at Sofia. No, but I'm here because of her. You see, it seems you rescued her sibling on a floating island a few years ago. What? The man yelled, standing up so fast he knocked down the table in front of him. He looked at Aredes, then at Sofia, then at Aredes again. His expression was still uneasy. Venerable guardian, I dare not doubt your judgment, but even Patriarch Avros assured me the sibling was definitely dead. I had to call in favors from my mother. Avros did? Are the years getting to him? Aredes turned to Sofia to explain. Avros is one of the oldest of our kin, his specialties are divination and soul magic. That he couldn't find you. Are you certain you're alive, Sofia? I died quite a few times, but I can say with high certainty that I am currently still alive, yes. Well, there you have it, kid, she's alive. Seems Avros was wrong, Aredes stated with a shrug. N/O/vel/b/n.c/om. How could he possibly be wrong? Just being old and powerful doesn't give us infallible truth. I trust my own opinion more, though, and I'm quite sure Sofia here is who she says she is. As for how exactly Avros could have failed, I suspect godly interference. Godly? She is a saint of scripture, Aredes added. Scrib? That doesn't make sense, he mumbled, visibly confused. How could such a weak god? The system seems also involved somehow, which could be the reason why, but don't sweat the details, kid. The end result is the same, we have two separated siblings to reunite, you get me? And you're lucky to be telling the truth, or I would be beating your scaly ass all the way to the other side of the moon, son of Vilakir or not. Chapter 280, Seria. Can I see Seria? Is she here? Sofia pressed the sweating dragon for answers. Yes, but not really. You can see her, and she's here, but whom you see? Get to the point, kid. Zafir was looking for a way out, but there was none. He reluctantly gave up. Arg, whatever, what are my secrets worth anyway? She's much further down, come, I'll explain on the way. What have you done to the girl, Zafir? I'll explain everything, all right. She's fine, just unavailable at the moment. Zafir sighed and walked to the door. This way now. How to explain this? The system grants some people special classes. Classes of which the concepts originate from the heroes' worlds. Seria has such a class, and so do a lot of the members of this section. I seek them out, nurture them, help them grow, try to understand how their classes came to be, how they can be used. The admins have created them, perhaps on a whim, or perhaps with a greater purpose. Either way, my goal is to help these people, and hopefully help myself. Aredes looked somewhat intrigued, but Sofia was the one to pursue the conversation. Your class is one of these two? Zafir turned back to look at Sofia while he answered, yes. And it's caused me all kinds of issues. But let's not make this about me. Seria is currently training and helping two of us with their class as well, it's a whole situation. Then why is she unavailable? Surely she can stop her training. You obviously know about the fake worlds of the trials, right? Zafir started. I have never been in one, but essentially, one of our members' class allows him to host such worlds. And Seria is currently in one. Is she stuck inside? No, don't worry, your sister is safe, as I said. She will be able to come out when the skill runs out in 63 days, so if you don't mind waiting 2 more months. Can you not cancel the skill? Aredes chimed in. No. It's dangerous, Joe, who hosts these fake worlds, the condition of his soul is unstable when he does it. It's getting better the more he uses it, but we absolutely cannot forcefully cancel the skill. He might die, and everyone inside of the fake world would certainly also suffer consequent soul damage. So I can only wait, n/o/vel/b/n.c/om. I never said that. Zafir refuted as he waited for everyone to step inside the small square room he had led them to. What is the alternative then? Get inside too. Zafir smiled for the first time since the start of the conversation. Exactly. The fake world is essentially still a system-directed place, and it works almost like trials, minus the death penalty. If you die in there, you will be stuck in place where you died, unable to do anything but wait until the skill runs out. Done with his explanation, he closed the door to the small room, which started a slow descent in the depths of the mountain. I will enter it. I will not stop you, in fact, I would like you to. Your level is adequate to get inside, but neither me nor the Guardian can follow you, and the fake world is currently in the form of a massive dungeon. Seria is at the end. Aredes perked up. Oh. So that's why they call her boss. Will the skill end if she is defeated? You guessed it. Zafir confirmed, this particular fake world was built around her own class, to help her train. Speaking of which, may I make a selfish request, Miss Sofia? Zafir. I can call you that, right? You saved Seria from that island, did you not? You went there. I did, yes. Searched for you, too, at her request. I looked everywhere, refugee camps, orphanages, slums, odd shacks in the woods, even the whole volcanic jungle, but I could not find any trace of you. Not even with the help of divination and tracking magic Seria she was devastated. Your coming back will be a great shock to her. So what is your request? I am still shaken by all this myself, but it seems you were Seria's benefactor this entire time, so you have my eternal gratitude. Truly. I will listen to any request you may have. Sofia declared with a deep formal bow. Then, please, fight her. Hide your identity and give it your all. I can tell that you are very powerful for your level. Seria has had trouble pushing her skills past their level limit, and fighting the same members of our sect again and again is not doing it for her anymore. We have set up this fake world so that she fights off waves of monsters, but due to her class specificity, I believe this to not be of a great help either. What she needs is a true fight against an unknown player. You can reveal your identity right after. Seria can handle herself, I have no say in what she does. But just for this small time where you are an unknown challenger, please give her a good fight, because there is no way she would ever fight you seriously after she learns who you are. She might not even be able to stand for a while. This will I not just be blocked inside of the fake world with no way to speak to her if she beats me? Well, yes. As I said, it is a bit of a selfish request. Zephyr confirmed, sounding downcast. Then just win? Already's deadpanned. Am I right? Just win and you're both out, your sister also gets the benefits. Easy enough. I'll be on the outside making sure there are no shenanigans involved. The elevator stopped. It's not even that much of a selfish request. What he really wants is for me to help train Seria. I don't really want to wait more, but he does make some good arguments if everything he says is true. Already seems to see no issues either. I'll think about it. I'll decide when I get there. I will not blame you if you cannot wait. I know I probably couldn't, in a similar situation, and I know Seria, she probably wouldn't either. Zephyr admitted. If she knew you were alive, she would have dropped everything to find you. In fact, you are much calmer than she would be. I have had some time to accept the fact that she was still alive. I passed out when I first learned about it in the tower. You learned about it in the tower? Right, I never heard your side of the story. You can share that with everyone in the inner disciples if you want. I'm sure everyone would be interested. You can join us if you want, or rather, welcome, because I have no doubt Seria will want you to stay. One thing at a time. Right, my apologies, either way, you are free to do as you please here. Now, let us go see your sister. Zephyr led Sofia and Aredes to a door covered in runes which he activated and opened. Behind was a long room bathed in blue light. A few people in white were roaming around with weird objects and notepads. They were monitoring big glass columns containing people floating around in a clear liquid. At the very far end of the room was one young boy sitting on a huge mechanical chair, with a metallic contraption strapped on his head, linked to countless cables leading into the ceiling. The place immediately reminded Sofia of the boss room in Zangdar's castle. Her eyes scanned the people in the columns one by one. They all wore the same kind of dark, skin-adhering attire, which looked a bit like the anti-ebb armor from Niset. Sofia's eyes stopped on a column near the end of the room. A slender and tall woman floated inside. Her face was serene, her eyes closed, her long golden locks were peacefully undulating behind her. Seria. Sofia ran to the container, paying no mind to the bewildered people in white. Boss, LV.249. Chapter 281, Fact or Fiction. Sofia wiped her tears again. Alone in a changing room, her smile wouldn't leave her face as she struggled to get in the stretchy black combination. Zephyr had explained that due to the caster's limitations, she would only be able to take one item with her inside the simulation, and storage items wouldn't work. Sofia could actually take off the crown of victory as long as it was kept no more than a few meters away. She chose to take her scepter, as it was her most versatile item. The Ring of Zar was also a good option, but in the end the scepter just offered too much. She felt uneasy leaving her things somewhere she couldn't see them, but with Aredes being there was no real way she could lose them even if a god decided to come in person to steal her stuff. Finally managing to close all the weird straps of the black suit, she let the staff flow from the wall to her hand, and walked out of the changing room. This stretchy armor is seriously embarrassing to wear and I'm glowing through. Zephyr called out to Sofia from the other side of the room. He was preparing the column for her, the one facing Seria's. Your chamber is ready. Sofia walked up to the group, Aredes was curiously watching the people in white coats fiddling with the machinery around the empty column. Good, now you can walk in through the door and close it behind you, the fluid will fill up to your neck, then we will connect you to the skill. Try to relax and let the magic do its thing, if you resist against it even slightly it won't be able to pull you in. The rest of the chamber will fill up after you fall asleep, Zephyr explained. How do I get out after I leave the skill? We will be there to drain the fluid and let you out. Depending on how long you were inside you might feel a bit weak for an hour or two, but that's completely normal. Alright, all these people in the other columns are inside too, right? Yes, these 5 are all inner disciples with special classes like your sister. If you meet them they might be able to help direct you toward Seria, just tell them that you're a new inner disciple. Will they just believe that? They should, it's not like anyone can get in without my permission and the entire crew helping to sync them with the skill. They'll probably assume that you're a new member before you can even tell them n/o/vel/b/in.c//om. I see. Can I know their names? Just ask them when you're there, Zephyr answered with a gentle smile. Go on, get in, I can tell you're impatient. Don't make Seria wait more, she's been training to avenge you all this time. Finally she can move on to focus on herself, so bring her the good news yourself. Sofia nodded, and she walked over the small ledge to enter her open column. She passed her scepter to her left hand to grab the glass handle of the door, only then realizing how hard she had been squeezing her weapon, so much that her fingers were sore. Right before she closed the door, she stopped. Right, Sir Zephyr, could you somehow send a message to my friends in Herzl? After giving her hastily scribbled bone paper letter to Zephyr and explaining the situation to him, Sofia finally closed the column's door, locking herself inside. Now relax, right? Not easy. Stop worrying and have fun in there, girl. No matter what you do, the worst possible outcome is having to wait a few days. It's only happy endings. And Grandma Nine Angels is there to make sure nothing happens outside. I'll even start working on your scale armor, so who knows, it could be done when you come out. When Sofia stopped focusing on Aredes' cheerful rant, the warm fluid was already reaching Sofia's chest. After all this time I'm coming for you, big sis. A soft flow of mana rising up from the floor enveloped Sofia's body. She closed her eyes and let the magic take over her. You have entered the dungeon, Submerged Metropolis, LV 200-249. Sofia opened her eyes in a dark room, sitting on a soft chair. Everything around her was old and dusty, but still in decent shape. A bedroom? What are all these things? Mural telephone, a device once used to communicate with other people inside the city. It looks broken. Oh, I didn't expect to actually get something out of that. Identify after how useless it was in the Solar Temple. Looking forward to your good work, Sir Scribe. Thanks in advance. Maybe I could get in touch with the other people if I find a functioning one of those. No idea of how it works, but I should be able to figure it out. And what's this ribcage thing? Steam radiator, a device used to heat up cold places thanks to the steam circulating inside. It also looks broken. Heating with steam? That's some rich people stuff. Guess I'm in some kind of manor? It's weird that this bedroom has no window. Trying to understand her situation better, Sofia focused on her mana senses to get a feeling for the layout of the place. With the 11 essences she had, quintessential had boosted them to unprecedented levels. She could already get a good grasp of her surroundings just by feeling the mana bouncing against walls and items. With a bit more precision it would almost be like being able to see through walls. The furthest she tried to scan, the blurrier everything was, but she could already feel enough to tell that this was no manor. The many bedrooms along a corridor was more reminiscent of an inn, except the levels below and above her were the same too. Sofia punched a hole through the wall opposite the door in her room, revealing a similar dusty bedroom on the other side. Strange layout. Is this fake world based on a real place? The dungeon name seemed to indicate that I'm underwater. I'll find out about that soon, I suppose. Parath, Bookie, everything is all right? Both skeletons appeared at Sofia's command. Now that's some great news. Ambient mana seems fine, the corridors are too tight to fly through, but I can punch or phase my ways through all these walls easily. This is actually going to be fun. But how do I find Seria is the question. The rats will probably not be so good here, seeing how there seems to be hundreds of rooms everywhere. Actually I can stop being so careful here, no? If no monster is above level 249? Let's just explore. Sofia let her bone armor grow around her body, she dispelled Bookie and left the room, with Perith teleporting to her to avoid having to crouch through the door frame. Damn, these corridors go far. How many people do you need to fill all these bedrooms? Do you want to walk in front, Perith? Perith chose to walk next to Sofia. The corridors were barely large enough. His halo, sword, and armor were the only lights illuminating the dead corridors. They walked in random directions until finally they heard some noise. I can feel something moving, seems slow. It's right after the right turn, you go. Perith ran forward, taking a sharp turn. He spun and his sword slashed in a wide arc just past the turn where Sofia couldn't see. She heard whistling noises and metallic bangs as if Perith's sword had crashed into a smith's workshop. One hit. You have defeated murderous carpet cleaner robot, leave 212. Carpet cleaner? No wonder it died so fast. But what's a robot? Sofia walked to examine the thing's corpse, finding only a pile of mechanical scrap and gears. So some kind of living machine like Zangdar's hero? I won't be shocked if this is an ancient elven city then. What's with their obsession with metal contraptions? Bringing out Bookie, Sofia summoned the engineer elf skeleton. Can you repair that thing? Sofia asked it, pointing at the pile of smoking and dented scrap. The skeleton shook his head. Go figure, well, make yourself a weapon out of the body, I guess, you'll be the rear guard. The skeleton disassembled the thing into neatly arranged scrap metal, and proceeded to make himself a weird bow with gears all over it and a bunch of steel arrows. The whole process took about 15 seconds. That works. Let's get going. Since anything she could pick up here would disappear after she left, Sofia wasn't too interested in all the weird contraptions she discovered, until she found one which seemed to have food inside right at the T-junction of two corridors. Ah! It's really written in Elven. Kind of strange though. Feels a bit like ancient human. Ancient Elven? Well, I don't need to actually read. Vending machine, insert gold and turn the corresponding handle to get an item. I don't have any gold. Sofia made a coin out of bone and inserted it in the hole clearly made for it. The coin slid right out of the machine by a slot a bit lower. Is that supposed to happen? Can't trick it with a fake coin, I guess? Well. Sofia lightly punched the glass casing of the machine, completely shattering it. She grabbed one of the bright blue square packages inside. Opening it, she found it filled with a bunch of flowery white rectangles. Is this actually food? The drawings on the machine were clearly all food. This place is so full of random stuff it's hard not to get sidetracked. A part of me wants to just destroy everything and get to Seria quickly, but I also don't mind the relaxing dungeon outing for once I understand why they all train there. Let's just finish with this and start searching seriously. Chewing gum, it's for chewing. I think it's probably best not to swallow it. You think? Hey Sir Scribe! Isn't this the first time you ever referenced yourself? Sofia awaited some sort of answer, which wasn't coming. Instead, she heard mechanical clangs coming from two directions. The noise attracted some company. Chapter 282, A Question of Consent. To her left, three ladylike machines with blades for arms. To her right, one big hunk or spiked iron with thick legs taking up the entire height and width of the corridor like a moving wall. Perith, go wall, NG with me. Deciding on how to engage the three-bladed robots, Sofia channeled her graveyard. Tombstones sprang from the walls, the robots cut through with their bladed arms, rushing forth, but that had slowed them enough for the graveyard skeletons to grab them. The engineer skeleton let loose his first arrow with a loud bang, leaving a trail of lightning behind. You have defeated murderous ballerina bot, leave 238. The arrow instantly killed the machine it had touched, piercing its chest. The other two seemed to also suffer from the electrical damage. Weak to lightning damage? Sofia rushed forward with her scepter poised against her right shoulder, ready to strike. The robots raised their blades as she approached. Even if the skeletons grabbing their legs prevented them from moving, they were ready to defend, 4 blades against on scepter. Raising her left hand, Sofia charged an angel's bolt for about a third of a second before throwing it at them. The bolt was weak, but the electrical shock stunned the robots for a brief instant as Sofia neared them. The scepter struck down in a short but powerful arc, bashing in the mechanical head of the robot on the right, and sending it reeling due to the scepter's own electrical damage effect. The other robot struck. Sofia blocked with her left arm. One of the blades bounced back due to a bad angle, but the other cut through the armor's bone, yet not enough to reach Sofia's arm. Sofia kicked the robot, ordering her graveyard skeletons to let it go, sending it flying against the wall. Another lightning arrow whizzed by, striking the robot in the chest. You have defeated murderous ballerina bot, leave 234. There was only one left, it was on the ground swarmed by tens of graveyard skeletons. It couldn't do anything to defend itself as the scepter fell. You have defeated murderous ballerina bot, leave 246 n/o/vel/b//in.c//om. This battle over, Sofia turned around, just in time to see Perith's glowing fist giving a final punch against the right side of the heavy metal wall. The wall tilted to the right due to the weight of the hit, and Perith quickly grabbed the now exposed left side of the 10 cm thick wall. He pulled it, revealing the heavy quadruped mechanical beast hiding behind. It died in a single punch. You have defeated rebellious trash compactor bot, leave 249. I would also be rebelling if I had that name. I can't believe these things are weak to lightning. I'm basically a lightning mage at this point. This dungeon is going to be a breeze. Bad things never happened when Sofia was very optimistic about her situation. That is why she and her skeletons were not relentlessly assaulted by an entire mechanical dancer troupe and restaurant service robots as they tried to exit the giant hotel building. Finally out. Man, how many goddamned dishwasher bots do you need? The only one having fun at the moment was the engineer skeleton, which now looked more like a monster of metal itself than a skeleton. How can you even move while carrying all this weight? I get why this guy was in the temple now. Not only he can make and fix stuff, but as long as he gets the right components, his battle prowess is no joke. Doesn't hit as hard as Perith, but right now he's probably just as sturdy. Sofia looked around, she could finally understand the submerged part of the dungeon's name. The place was quite literally a city built against an underwater cliff, protected by a half-dome of multi-layered protection against the water. There were at least 2 layers of mana shields, and probably more than that of gigantic glass panels, allowing one to see not much, as the exterior glass was at 90% covered in dark green and blue algae, but it was definitely underwater. And probably quite deep, all the light is coming from inside. The streets are mostly still lit, it seems. Sofia approached the nearest lamppost. Lights stones. The mana stream goes through the pole and runs underground along the street. I'm kind of tempted to follow it to the source, but let's focus on Seria. Squinting as she tried to read the ancient elven language on the hotel's front porch, Sofia gave up. Goodbye, whatever service hotel, you'll never see me again. Terrible place, worst inn I ever slept at. And I didn't even sleep there. Let's find some more robots to pulverize on the way. The hotel had been built inside of the cliff, which explained how its interior could be so massive, because it did not need to actually be within the dome for the most part. But most of the city was composed of vertigo-inducingly tall buildings which fit entirely under the half-dome. Who would ever build a city underwater like this? Just why? Astounded by the grandeur of the city, Sofia tried to read the signs as she walked through the empty streets. Bolver on Bork and Trim? I don't understand a single one of these signs. This place is crazy and so silent, like the city's asleep. I don't like it. With ruins it's not usually that bad, but this place is just a bit rusty and dusty. I could still see thousands of people living here. These buildings are so high, you could fit thousands of people here. Yet it's so empty. I don't know if I didn't like it better with the murder robots. Sofia frantically looked around every time she heard any noise. But there really wasn't anyone nearby, not even a single monster. Screw this, enough playing around, for real this time. The bone wings grew larger on Sofia's back, they opened, spreading across the entire street, and she flew up. She aimed straight for the highest building in the dome, one whose top floor almost reached that glass ceiling. She landed on that high spot. If I try to search this whole place on foot, it is going to take 8 years, not 2 months. Sofia created a bone slate, on which she replicated the major-looking buildings of the city at a very small scale. The more she completed her map, the more often she sighed. Not a single sign of life anywhere. Weren't there supposed to be thousands of monsters and 5 inner disciples in here? Where are they all? And where in the Lord's name is Seria? 52, 53 and 54. There we go. Sofia brought out Bookie, instantly ripping out the page of the 54 black turbans. As they formed from the fog, she started giving out the instructions. Look at the map, 1 building each. Fly around, then get inside, pierce through the walls if you have to, I don't care. If you find someone or one of the robots, fly in circles high above your designated building. The bird flew away, spreading in all directions. Sofia dumped a bunch of bones behind her, quickly forming herself a throne. She sat atop the tallest building. I declared myself queen of this fake world's land. Go, my birds, go and locate the intruders. Too bad I'm missing the crown now. Actually, no one lives in the margin, right? So can't I call myself Empress of the Margin when I'm able to return to the castle? I guess I will have to share the throne with Elith. I should be able to expand the size of the castle, right? Since it used to be larger. Maybe I could really build a small autonomous country there. The land of ghosts and skeletons. Where nobody can come to annoy me. Not even TLDR could find it when he was the one who helped the hero make it possible in the first place. That's an idea. If I just get enough mana next filter, I'll have enough to go there safely. The only issue is the castle could have fallen into the abyss of the margin if the mana completely ran out while we were away. It should probably hold on for a while, right? It's only been like a year since then, not that long. Sofia lost herself in her thoughts, comfortably sitting on her throne. Eventually the engineer skeleton timed out. Nothing came up at first, all birds were still searching inside their respective buildings. Until a bird disappeared. Sofia immediately turned toward the direction of the lost bird's last known position. It was one of the wider buildings that Sofia had marked on her map, far to the other side of the giant underwater city. The bone helmet closed over her face, and Sofia plunged off from the building. She pierced through the air, diving and crashing straight through the building's glass ceiling. Scanning the mana in her surroundings, she immediately locked onto a quickly fleeing mass of mana. They were fast enough to run out, over a street and past two other buildings in a single jump. Yet, to Sofia with her wings, the bird killer was painfully slow. An orc. She was the one in the column right next to mine. Come here, girl. I'll teach you not to kill any random skeletons without asking the owner first. Chapter 283, Friendly Tips. Cynthia slowly entered the abandoned mall. Despite her best efforts to be silent, the sound of her footsteps echoed around the deserted halls. She internally cursed whoever decided to design the stasis suits with hard soles. Daddy Hatred donated 50 essence tokens. Daddy Hatred, you've got this, Cynthia. Kill them all. Thank you for the donation. Why yes, I will. You're all positive they're here, right? I don't see anything, Cynthia whispered to herself, walking discreetly along the walls. N/O/vel/b/jn.c//om. B. Alright. Entering the abandoned shops one after the other, Cynthia checked the floor for the secret trapdoor that she was told was somewhere nearby. She also knew that special elite robots with optical cloaking technology roamed in this part of the city. She had managed to escape once, but it had not been a pleasant experience, and her viewers had been unimpressed. Now she needed to complete Daddy Hatred's quest at all costs. Too many tokens were at stake. Not this shop either. Unclean Lord, it's nearby, I can smell it. Cynthia entered yet another shop, this one selling a bunch of weird metallic cylinders with pictures of food. Everything was rusty and the floor and shelves were exceptionally dirty even for the standards of the abandoned city. She looked around the entire shop, failing to find anything once again. She entered the next shop in this aisle of the mall. It had once been a clothing shop, but now, all that was left were a bunch of creepy mannequins wearing tattered rags with faded colors. It reminded Cynthia of a certain floor or the previous trial that had almost cost her her life. Just the thought of it sent chills down her spine. She moved quickly, wanting to be done fast with this store that made her on edge. The city was uncanny enough on its own, she thought, even without the uncanny dolls. As she turned past a row of mannequins, Cynthia saw something move. Startled, she jumped back and used her fastest attack skill, Sponsored Strike. She barely caught a glimpse of the thing that had scared her before it was shattered into bone bits by the spread shot of essence tokens she had blasted it with. A bone bird? She thought. Before she was surprised even more by the unusual stream of new messages. Some by viewers she had never even heard of. Common number. Crybaby, poor child. Daddy Hatred, crybaby. You? Here. Twisty face, of course she would be here, Hatred. You're so oblivious. Tall bro, right? Hatred has no idea what Cynthia's got coming for her right now. Evil laughter. Daddy Hatred, what? You too. Unclean Lord, this was no dungeon monster. Strange. I don't get it either. The jailed, run, Cynthia, fucking hell. Run. Cynthia was shell-shocked at the quick succession of new messages. The viewers were rarely so enthusiastic about anything. The content of the messages were worrying, however. Reading the last one, which was by a viewer she had only started seeing in her chat a few months prior but who was always extremely serious, she asked no question and started running, but where to? As she picked a random direction, she also activated drone shot to try to understand why the viewers were suddenly so talkative. Was it all just because of the undead she just killed? Why was there an undead here in the first place? And why was there no kill notification for it in her log? The situation was indeed strange, the more she thought about it. Daddy hatred, is someone going to fucking explain? What is going on? Why are you all here? Leave Cynthia alone if you're not even gonna donate, you scum. Crybaby donated 1000 essence tokens. Crybaby, I pray for your swift recovery. 1000. Cynthia stopped for a second, shocked by the unexpected huge donation by an unknown viewer. Recovery from what? Cynthia heard a whistling sound. She saw a glimpse of a blurry thing entering the view of her drone shot. The roof of the mall exploded, glass and steel debris flew everywhere as an uncanny mass of glowing armor stood up from the new crater in the center of the mall, clouded by a thick curtain of airborne dust created by the thing's crash landing. This made the viewer's warning have much more substance. Cynthia ran, breaking through a wall, jumping as far as she could. She needed to get far from that thing, whatever it was. It was clearly evil, she could feel it in her bones. She felt tears leave her eyes as she ran. The thing was coming for her. She cursed her rotten luck. Did she trigger another hidden boss? Why did stuff like this always happen to her? There was no way she could outrun the bone abomination flying behind her. Her drone shot's view struggled to even capture a still image of it. Since fleeing wasn't going to work, she resolved to stand her ground and fight. Swiftly turning around to face her enemy, she activated her two strongest defensive skills, behind the screen and slow mode. She prepared her next move, starting the channeling of add time, a strong mental attack skill, thinking her defensive skills would buy her the time needed for it to go off. The bone creature hit the slow mode area of effect, its flight instantly slowing down. With a sigh of relief, Cynthia hurried to complete her cast, but suddenly, the monster's wings started shining brighter, covered in ethereal runes, and its speed recovered. In fact, it flew even faster now. With no choice left, Cynthia cancelled her cast, suffering a violent backlash through her arms, but she wouldn't have time to finish casting anyway, so she needed to protect herself some other way. She hated herself for using sponsored strike so frivolously earlier. Now it was on a painfully long 3 minutes cooldown timer. Using another skill in desperation, she braced for impact. Her other attack skill disappeared when it made contact with the monster, as if it had never existed. Then the flying thing crashed into her behind the screen's invisible mana barrier. The screen shattered. The flying colossus of glowing bones grabbed Cynthia by the shoulders, and as she was ready to die and spend the next 2 months being bored to death, as she had already experienced several times, Cynthia was pinned against the ground instead. Hope? The bone juggernaut loomed over Cynthia. Its closed helmet revealed nothing of the being behind, only letting through an otherworldly glow. She used her low cooldown attack magic several times, but the projectiles always disappeared before hitting the armor, as if it ate her magic. The creature raised a fist. Cynthia tried to escape, all her muscles tensed and pushed back, but no matter what she did, she couldn't move at all. The giant armor of bones overpowered her without mercy. She closed her eyes, only hoping that it would at least be a painless death, for once. She couldn't afford to pay attention to it, but her viewer messages were going wild. And then, the fist came down, stopping right above Cynthia's head. Hesitantly, the frail-looking red-skinned orc opened her eyes. The bone gauntlet moved back a little, and a single finger flicked Cynthia's forehead. You should be more careful whose skeletons you blow up, inner disciple, a playful feminine voice said with a chuckle from inside the armor. The bone helmet slowly disappeared, as if absorbed by the being underneath, revealing the stunning face of a blonde and strangely glowing human woman. Are you all right? I tried not to hurt you too much, but I was going pretty fast, she continued. WW, who are you? You entered Joe's dream. Sofia stood up. It was rather impolite to speak to someone while sitting on their torso. And quite awkward. And uncomfortable. She completely dispelled her armor, showing off the stasis combination underneath. I'm just a passing necromancer. You can call me Valkyria, she answered with a wink. And how I got here should be pretty obvious. Zephyr let me in. Then you're a new disciple? Sort of. My class is special in a different way though. Cynthia had a look of disbelief as she carefully stood up and dusted herself. She started saying something when she interrupted herself. Saint. Told you it was special. And not just because I'm a Saintess. But you never answered. Did I hurt you badly? You look fine but... I'm alright, I think, although you had me very scared. I heal fast, why would you even attack me like this? I thought I was dead. I'm sorry for your skeleton. Don't worry about it, sorry, I kind of overreacted too, I was a bit too eager to ahem. Anyway, Zephyr told me to join Seria fast. Would you happen to know where she is? You know Seria? Cynthia asked back, incredulous, before realizing in the same instant that she didn't need to know her to be searching for her. I mean sorry, let's start from the beginning. I'm Cynthia, first inner disciple of the Obsidian Mountain. Welcome into our ranks, Valkyria. Thanks, happy to be here. And sorry again for the strong-armed first impression. No worries, I'm somewhat used to people unexpectedly appearing at weird times. Just, please be a bit less scary from now on. I don't know where boss is right now exactly, but I should be able to find her. Oh, right, you probably don't know, we call Seria boss, you'll understand why soon. Why are you looking for her actually? Did leader have an urgent message for her? Sofia looked away. You could say that. Chapter 284, Larceny. So you came here with another dragon. A bit of a lengthy story, but yes, Sofia answered. You said it was around here? That's what the viewers told me. Sofia frowned. Can you really not explain what this is about, viewers? It's fine, I'll tell you if you tell me how you cancelled my attacks. Cynthia offered, her hands on her hips. My second specialization lets me do that. I can pay twice the mana your spell costs to cancel it. Your turn. Second specialization. Also that's quite strong. I assume you have lots of mana then? Yet you're so physically strong. Do you not know about specializations? No, I know. Boss has 2 of them too. It's just so hard to get them. Makes sense that Seria also has 2, since her name was so high in the tower. Cynthia's expression froze. Her name? Well yet? I'm sorry lords, for I have sinned. Bragging is too much fun. I finished first after all, so... Sofia had to remember all she knew about Poker Face's mana patterns to not burst out laughing at Cynthia's series of shocked expressions. Her red skin kind of made her look constantly startled, which only made it cuter. Will you explain about the viewer thing then? Yes, sorry, it has to do with my class, to put it bluntly, the recessed watch me. For fun. That's my class. How is that a class? They, like, follow you around like perverts? Like the orator? And no, kind of more like they can always watch me if they want. I get my skills from it, so... So you get your powers from the recessed watching you? They're watching us right now? Yes, don't worry, they're not as heavy. Cynthia got defensive all of a sudden, but Sofia had moved closer. She put a finger on Cynthia's mouth. How many? She asked before removing her finger. T12 right now. 12? Is Sorrow there too? So many messages, Cynthia said as she looked to the side. I think Sorrow is present, yes. Really? Hello mom. Can you see me? Sofia jumped in place and waved, thanks for the skills. Mom? Cynthia was starting to overheat. It's nothing, I'm just Sorrow's apostle. Sofia caught the orc as she fell backward. Did she faint? Crap. I bragged her halfway to death. Are the recessed still watching, then? She could have been lying too. But why would she? She softly shook the girl, but she was not waking up. She's not dead though. Well. Since Cynthia was down, Sofia gave up trying to find some random trapdoor in the ground for now and carried the girl up to her bone-thrown rooftop. She made a bone bed and put the Cynthia on it. Then she returned to her map, to monitor the birds. Most of them indicated empty buildings, but some were giving the signal from monsters and one seemed to have found a person. Another disciple? I'm surprised they didn't notice the bird. Everyone in this fake world should be around my level. Cynthia seems a bit mentally weak, but she's no pushover. I had to dispel her attacks because they were really threatening. They cost a huge chunk of mana to get rid of, too. Sofia gave another look at the sleeping girl. I can't believe she passed out so fast. I didn't even have time to show her my heart. It's nice to have light-hearted interactions like that, for once, since I haven't seen Alith in a while. Ah! Cynthia yelped from behind. Sofia turned around, welcome back, and sorry. Cynthia frowned, it's not nice to lie like that. It was all true though? Come on, Cynthia's frown deepened, you don't look like an apostle at all. Even if you look kind of strange. Can't you ask your viewers then? Since you said they sent messages. That's what it was, right? If it's really sorrow then she would know. Cynthia narrowed her eyes, she looked to the side again, and again she whispered to herself, how are there so many? Wait, for real, and I thought I was the weirdest disciple of the sect. She looked up again, I'm sorry I doubted you, it looks like they have messages for you. Sorrow, n/o/vel/b//in.c//om. A bunch of them, in fact to explain a bit more, they can give me quests that reward me with a currency I need to use some of my skills. I just received a lot of new quests just to give you messages. Does that usually happen? Cynthia shook her head, no, to begin with there's usually only 2 or 3 of them watching at a time, never so many. So you'll get free stuff for just letting me look at some system windows? That's one way to say it, she answered, standing up from her sitting position on the bone bed. Do you want to see them? Of course. Who wouldn't want to receive some godly mail? And if you can get paid for it, please do, suck them dry. I'm not allowed to show the entire message log to anyone, but I will give you the messages they sent for you. I wonder what they have to say. Why do they want to talk to me in the first place, except for sorrow? Is Dread going to ask for their essence back? Cynthia seemed to be messing with her many system windows, her eyes looking everywhere as she struggled to organize her things. So, in order I got them, this is the first, please don't get offended. Why would? Daddy Hatred, who the fuck are you, Leave Cynthia alone. Well, the name is consistent with the message. Daddy Hatred? That's Hatred is my most dedicated viewer. He is easily riled up. The recessed all use alternate names, but Hatred isn't the kind to hide his identity. Sofia chuckled, somehow, I feel a bit sorry for you. No, Hatred is nice, really UW, that's a weird thing to say anyway, just here's the next one. Underscore. I don't get it, can you help me translate that? Cynthia nodded, this is death. Oh. I died a few times, I have to say, it never appeared to me that death was a bunch of bars. You died a few, I'm not even going to ask, so, yes, this is death, according to Hatred at least. I don't know why, but they only communicate with these faces. I think this one means they're mildly annoyed. Death annoyed? Because I deleted Avatar of Death? I also took Sun's blessing for Bookie instead of theirs. Yeah, no wonder a god might be annoyed after being ignored 2 times by a random mortal. I'm sorry, Elder Death, the other offers were too good to pass up, Sofia decided to say, giving a polite bow to the direction where Cynthia kept looking. They sent another quest, Cynthia said. Sofia made her understand that she should show her, making the hand sign meaning money, with a smug smile. And what does this one mean? Sofia asked, perplexed. I think they're pouting. I see, very understanding, thank you for your generosity, Elder Death, just say the word and I'll be glad to accept your generosity next time. Cynthia, there's more, right? As inner disciples, we should help each other, right? Sofia encouraged with a wink. This next one is from Sorrow, Cynthia announced as she resorted to using her fingers to manually move her system windows because there were so many to deal with. Cry baby. Your clothes, my dear daughter. I'm happy for you. And do not be afraid to rely on your elder brother. Sofia smiled. Thank you. I'm glad to be a part of your family. Cynthia was curious, how can you still look so human if you're Sorrow's apostle? All the apostles I've met were. You met multiple other apostles already? Well, to make it short, my apostate ritual went a bit wrong. In a way I can take my apostle form if I want, but it's only temporary and comes with a level debt. I think I'm starting to understand why they all want to talk to you, Valkyria. I just happened to run into a lot of things related to the recessed recently. It's nothing special. Usually they're speaking to you, not me, so you're interesting in your own right, don't you think? Also, any more coins to steal from them? There's still a few. This one is also one of my regular viewers, Dread. Twisty face, thank you for ending the suffering, he would thank you too. You can keep the change. So this is how it is? I guess Dread's apostle really was beyond saving then. Well, I gave them a swift death. I didn't even know what I was doing back then, but you're welcome, Dread. Who's next? This entire exchange really feels wrong. Next is Tall Bro, I don't know which recessed it is. They rarely show up. And then there's one last message from the jailed, I don't know their real title either. Show me then, I might be able to put a name on them. Tall Bro, I'll give you something good if you return my essences to the hidden temple, small one. Maniacal laughter. That's domination, Sofia affirmed as soon as she saw the message. Sure I will, if I manage to get them. It better really be something good or I'll make sure no one ever attempts your ritual again, she answered the message, unimpressed. You could tell just like that? Oh, they answered you. Tall Bro, hearty laugh. Sofia stared at the message then at Cynthia. Domination really paid to say that? You're not making them pay enough. I don't get to decide the price it costs them. But you do? Just reject the quests for the message with stingy rewards. That's Cynthia had to sit back down on the bone bed. You do understand that they are gods, Valkyria? Yes, and? Chapter 285, Inception. You're crazy, just read this last one and we should move to something else. It's honestly tiring to follow so many conversations at once, they're going crazy in there. Here goes. The jailed, is my daughter fine? Please say that she is. I lost all contact due to sorry that you got caught up in it, but you were also the one who killed her when you messed with her scribe, so please just tell her to stay safe. Your daughter? No way, this is curse? It was the quest that killed her? Sir Scribe, you have some serious explaining to do if curse is saying the truth. Is it a fatal flaw in the system? I'll bring it up to whoever's in charge of the next trial. The system would have me kill Seria without even telling me? That's not the kind of quest I want to receive. Not at all. Seria is fine. My uncle? He helped her. Last I saw her she was wanting to open a school. I'll tell her about your message next time I see her, but you better give Cynthia some good compensation for making it happen. Cynthia was only slightly shocked by Sofia's answer to the message and her barely disguised attempt at coercion against a god. But her expression changed when she received a new donation. VV Valkyria? Are you secretly the Demon King? Not that I know of, no. I don't even know what the Demon King is supposed to do really. I just received a donation larger than what I earned in total these last 3 years. So much? Cynthia nodded so fast her face became blurry. Nice, Sofia congratulated her. I appreciate Elder Curse's sincerity. I'll make sure to tell Seria how much of an attentionate father you are. Though she already knows. I might even try to give a hint to my uncle, if you see what I mean. But I can't guarantee anything on that front. A pleasure doing business with you. Cynthia raised her voice a bit. You, is it really fine for me to get all this? You're not getting anything out of that exchange, are you? Negotiating with the recessed for me. It's not like you can share your class coins, right? Just bring me to Seria, it'll be payment enough, I assure you. In fact, I'll be the one in your debt. If you say so. Boss is here almost all year round though, it's not very hard to meet her. The message I have for her is just that urgent. I would appreciate it if you could lead me to her sooner than later. In fact, I have been scouting the city but it's been rather unfruitful until I found you. We can go when you want then. I have a general idea of where she is. Great, just give me a second to check what my skeletons found while we were talking. Actually, Parith, just go check on that one bird, would you? Parith appeared on the roof, startling Cynthia, who silently took a step back. He gave a curt bow to both ladies and jumped off from the roof. This one is a bit more intimidating than the birds, Cynthia commented as she observed Parith falling through the air and crashing down on the streets far below. He's the best one. In fact, he's my first specialization. Oh, is that why your armor is bones too? No, that was from even before. My class is just weird, don't think too much about it. If I try to explain it all, we'll still be here tomorrow. If you say so. I think Parith is where he needs to be, give me a second. Sofia switched to Parith's point of view. The bird had indeed found someone. It was clearly one of the inner disciples. But he was semi-transparent and like frozen in time, a completely unmoving mid-air, his corpse actually cut in 2 separate parts. Looks like one of the other disciples died, I think. They're all see-through. Cynthia tilted her head. Let me guess, black-haired dwarf with a big sword? That's him all right. Yeah, Unsurprising. That's Daniel. His class entire thing is getting stronger by dying in different ways. It's definitely weird, but who am I to judge? His class involves dying? A lot, yet. He has a passive skill that brings him back to life after a while. Doesn't that make him immortal? I can't share much, but no. Understandable. I have an active skill that does something similar, so I am a bit curious, but I will not pry more. That's appreciated. Are we waiting for your skeleton to come back? Parath? No need, he's already here. Cynthia looked around, even checking the street below, but she found no trace of the big glowing skeleton. Where are you looking? Sofia called her from behind. Parath was right there, standing next to her. Cynthia blinked a few times. My head, let's just go find boss. Cynthia did her best to ignore the recessed going wild in her messages to explain how they were going to find Seria. She had brought Sofia to a rather hidden hole in the dome that apparently led outside. It's like this because the monsters reappear sometime after they died in Joe's worlds. That's how boss trains. She lures the monsters she can to the boss room and fights them all at once with the actual boss. Then she goes back to the start and does it all again, luring more monsters in each time to make it more difficult. So all we really need to do is find where the boss room is, which will be in an area relatively devoid of monsters, since she grabs them all. I get that, but how can you tell it's not somewhere in the city? She's too noisy and flashy. If she was inside the dome you wouldn't need me to find her. Even if she might find you first, actually. But really that only leaves this path through the sea, the city's underground, and the part buried inside the cliff where you said you came from. I think you would have heard if she was somewhere in the cliff, and I was looking for the entrance to the underground all this time. It's hard to find, so it wouldn't be her first choice either. Since I didn't see her at all, it can only be the sea route. How big are Joe's worlds? This city is already impressive. I didn't think it would extend into the sea too. Pretty damn big, thanks to all the machinery he's strapped to. Zafir invested a lot in the research to make sure we could all benefit the most from these safe training grounds. N/O/vel/b/in.c//om. He seems to care about his disciples a lot. Cynthia shrugged in response. It's not all selfless generosity. It benefits his class to help us. But he is pretty caring. I'll give him that. We all owe our leader a lot. Can you breathe underwater, Valkyria? Sofia nodded. That'll make things easier. Let's go then. Wait. You're sure she's out there? Almost certain, yes. Then I'll go alone, I think, if you don't mind. Thank you for your help. Do I stink or something? You don't like red skin? Cynthia asked, trying to laugh it off but clearly somewhat baffled by the sudden change. No, it's just. I have personal matters to settle with her. I would rather do that in private, but you can ask her later, or me. You don't have to worry, it is not like I can do anything bad inside here, right? And Zafir let me in just for this. That's weird. But if you want, then. Your choice. I still have the underground entrance to look for, so I'll be going back to doing that, I suppose. Was nice meeting you, Valkyria. Thank you for the unexpected windfall. It really helped a lot. You helped me, I helped you, we're even. See you outside, then. Sofia winked as her skeletons grabbed her through the heavy steel door. Did she just? Let's get back to my quest. Yes, I'm still reading the chat. Thank you for your donation, Hatred. I don't know what GL is, no. Thank you for the 100 tokens, Death, always appreciated. Thanks. Sofia phased through another heavy door, arriving directly into the dark, cold, and salty water of the deep ocean. I can still fly, even if it's a bit slow, it's not so bad. The salt is a bit irritating, but I can handle that. Bookie? Sofia summoned a skeleton that Zire had given her. It was once she had never tried. Solar saltwater spinnefish. The skeletal fish in question was larger than Sofia and had two long horn-like spikes, on either side of its body. They were in fact his first and last vertebra that had become like that somehow. A strange species of fish that Zire had captured for the express purpose of giving Sofia aquatic mobility. It would have been a shame not to use you. Sofia thought as she grabbed the fish's bones. Now go. The fish swam much faster than Sofia could fly underwater. It was fast, but the visibility underwater wasn't the best. So Sofia closed her eyes and focused on her mana senses. The ocean was weirdly empty of life, but it did not take long for her to locate another facility built on the seafloor. Going around, she found another big circular door, and once again, she phased through with Graveyard of the Righteous. In the space behind the door was another door again. But not only that, Sofia noticed footprints. It was just a bit of sand left over on the ground, but it was clearly the tracks of the combination soles. Just like what Sofia was wearing right now. Found your tracks, sister. This has to be you, right? I'm not dreaming inside the dream, right? After all these years. If this is a dream, please let me sleep some more. Chapter 286, The Challenger. Sofia was growing terribly impatient, restless. She phased through the second door and started running through the facility she found herself in. The many robot monsters on the way succumbed to a merciless rain of electric scepter slams and parith punches. It was strange to see the environment so damaged but the monsters roaming it be untouched. They really reappear then. Observing how the walls and floors of the facility were in places where monsters roamed, it seemed that what killed them were mostly fire-based attacks. In some places, there were also deep lacerations, like clean cuts made by a sword, tearing straight through the walls. Some kind of bladed weapon. Is she not using spears anymore? Delving deeper and deeper into the strange undersea factory, the monsters eventually stopped appearing. This is it. This must mean she lured the monsters from here to the boss room. So close. Now. Sofia retraced her steps a few hundred meters back and sat behind some large brass vats in a dark corner. What should I do? Uncertainty. Should she give Seria the fight of her life to help her grow, but potentially have to wait 2 more months in anguish until the fake world decayed if she lost? Or, forego that entirely, and finally get what she had been after for so long, right then and now? What would she do? Sofia knew full well what Seria would do, or what young her would have done, at least. She was not one to let go of any opportunity she could find. She would have wanted to have that fight for sure. But was she even the same person now, almost 15 years later? Sofia felt that she herself had changed a lot. Would Seria even recognize her? Believe that she was who she claims to be? Parith stood still as he observed Sofia getting lost in the endless doubts she couldn't get rid of. His eternal silence was nothing special, he rarely communicated in any way. Today he broke the status quo on his own accord. Reaching down, he grabbed Sofia from under her arms, like one would grab a young kid. He forced her up. What's gotten into you? Parith locked eyes with Sofia, he unhanded her, taking a step back. He answered her doubts in his own way. His halo appeared over his head. His armor of light slowly formed around his bones. Spreading his arms, he summoned not 1 but 2 weapons of light. A sword and a shield. 2. I'm not the only one making improvements, I see. You want to fight, then? You're right, we should. This is what Seria would want to let us do this well, then, my knight. Nothing short of the best she could give. Sofia wanted to go all out. 3 runes, refilling the mana with Bookie's summons and heat death, waiting for his fog to regenerate as well, making extra sure she had a large stock of stored bones. Everything needed to be perfect. When she finally felt about ready, she didn't yet go. Now for the last step. Let's become someone else. Sofia activated her bone armor. She waited for it to be well in place, then she started to work. Bone Dominus let her reshape her armor however she wanted. So far it had mostly been used to remove the helmet, but today, she would become a necromancer of legends. More skulls. Visible ribs. I can fit animalistic skulls on the pauldrons too. Thicker build. Square torso. Let's become a man, for once, because of the armor. As long as I do not speak, she won't be able to tell. The soles could be a bit thicker too, I need to look tall and imposing. The helmet can be a bit scarier still, I can change the slits for holes. The mana senses and parith give all the visibility I need. Let's alter the wings to look more like Aredes. After a few minutes of work, Sofia admired her piece of art from Parith's eyes. If there was one thing she knew how to reproduce with her bones, it was actual bones. Oh, man, no one would ever think it's a woman inside. This reminds me a bit of the Magisterium. He was pretty scary, in his own way. I wonder if there are too many skulls? He'll test the mobility and if it's alright, this will be it. The Bone Armor Alternative Design 1, Saint of Death. Sofia made her way through the corridors that were free of monsters. She wasn't sure where the boss room would be exactly, but every so often she would find stairs leading down, and that felt like a safe bet. The underwater facility looked more and more dilapidated the deeper she delved, and still there were no monsters. Until finally, at the edge of her mana senses, she felt it. Someone.n/o/vel/b/jn.c//om. Come back out, Perith. Lights off, be ready to activate sanctified grounds, but it's best if you look like a regular undead until the last second. She fought against victory too, and that was a while before us. We can assume Seria to be on our actual level, she also has 2 specializations. This will be tough. Sofia closed her eyes, she took a final moment to calm her heart. The soft jingle of Ormoncleith's bell on her staff helped to soothe her mind in the silent atmosphere of this old deep-sea dungeon. It is time. The person Sofia was looking for was in a very large room, slightly elevated, at the end of a long and wide unlit corridor. With a heavy and deliberate gait, Sofia walked to the boss room, the rusty metal sheets of the floor creaking under her every step. About midway through the corridor, the mass of mana in the center of the room beyond moved up a bit. Seria had been sitting down on something, she stood up. You felt my arrival, sister. I wonder, how much can you see? Are you ready to receive me? Sofia did not stop. The heavy steel doors of the boss room loomed closer, Seria no longer moved. I need to properly announce my arrival. Skull Choir. 6 flying human skulls appeared in a circle above Sofia's head, slowly rotating. There is my own halo. Now, skulls, Victory's orchestra. The uncanny voices of the skulls rose, their song spreading far and wide in this metallic facility, their endless echoes filled the air. Sing louder. Graveyard of the Righteous. The skulls above her head were chanting the music Victory's ghosts played atop the ranking tower. Sofia followed their rhythm, and, grabbed by dozens of skeletal hands, smoothly walked through the heavy steel door as if it weren't there to begin with, Perith entering right behind her. Through the holes in her visor, she could see her. Seria. Standing alone, straight like a pillar, on top of a burned and mangled giant mechanical spider, she was waiting. Seria, wearing a mask representing the head of a dragon, looked at the 2 newcomers from above. Sofia raised a hand, the skulls stopped chanting. They spoke one by one, each saying their one word in a different voice that echoed through the vast dome-shaped room. We finally found you, rank 2. Seria jumped down from the remains of the mechanical boss, landing gracefully on the ground. She took a few steps forward, her voice was clear and firm from behind the mask, and you are? The one to dethrone you. I am Vakari's Rihofen, Apostle of Sorrow. Ranked first in the spire. Dragon Mask, I have come to challenge you. I shall be your demise. The skulls proclaimed in unison. Sofia tapped the floor with her scepter and started channeling a bolt as she spread her skeletal wings. A discharge of mana erupted from the dragon mask. Blue flames covered Seria's body for an instant, leaving behind a giant blue polearm and heavy armor as they faded. Sofia instantly understood that it was an ability similar to Perith's armaments of light. Her hair livened behind her back, like rustled by invisible currents, she was suddenly enveloped by an aura of blue light, and even more surprisingly, a large red circle appeared around her feet out of nowhere. Seria then simply put her guard up, pointing the tip of her fauchar forward. Facing Sofia and Perith, she beckoned them, then come. Chapter 287, Seria, Raid Boss, 1. Sanctified Grounds activated along with Perith's other holy skills. Name, Perith. Health 2905 692/2905 692. Stamina 1 177 925/1 177 925. Mana, 49 800/49 800. Name, Sofia Afinareth. Health 31050/31050. Stamina 31 148/31 149. Mana, 407 633/417 100. Perith charged forward. In a single leap, he was now inside of Seria's red circle, close enough to reach her. His sword sliced the air, carrying all the momentum of his charge. Seria blocked the blow with the shaft of her weapon. The impact carried great force, yet Seria only slid back a few centimeters, unwavering. A red crown appeared high above Perith's skull like a secondary halo. Fall back! Sofia gave the order as she ripped off one of the Book of Skeletons' pages and threw a first piercing-type angel bolt. Perith moved back to the side, freeing the path for the bolt at the last moment. It missed. Through some kind of instantaneous short-distance teleportation, Seria had moved out of the way of the bolt, which pierced through the remains of the mechanical boss and hit the other side of the room an instant later. Sofia noticed the red crown disappearing from above Perith, and fog gathered near her in the shape of a tall female skeleton holding a broom. She started preparing another bolt on her scepter, explosive. Seria raised her polearm overhead. The motion was wide, predictable, and before her blade fell, she dashed in Sofia's direction. Despite being slightly slower, Perith managed to step in and intercept her midway, his shield meeting the blade of her fauchar. The shield of light shattered, but Perith's armor held. He struck back, stabbing with his sword, the red crown instantly reappearing above his head. Once again, Seria teleported just out of reach of his sword. Perith's sword extended, from a short sword to a long sword, reaching Seria anyway. The sword colliding with the blue armor created sparks of blue fire, but failed to pierce through. The broom-wielding Solar Sun Nun was finally ready, though her health was ridiculously low. She was Sofia's fastest skeleton. She ran forward as Seria disengaged with a backstep. So far, the fight was clean, almost surgical. Both sides were carefully analyzing the skills and capabilities of the other. To Sofia, the red crown was worrying, and she was starting to think that, considering her reactions to Perith's attack, Seria's health pool must be gigantic. Seria raised a hand, a gigantic circle of red light appeared around her. Both Perith and the nun were inside. Sofia felt magic tremble in this area. Whatever was coming, there was little time to react. Perith, teleport. Just as Perith appeared near Sofia, a violent burst of flames replaced the red light. The nun skeleton died instantly inside of the hellfire hot enough to melt the steel floor. As Seria held still, casting her fire spell, Sofia hit her with a ray large of light, covering her armor and weapon in a thin layer of rot right as the flames died down. Another circle of red light appeared right after. The spell wasn't over. This circle was enormous, encompassing almost the entire room. The flames took a bit longer to appear this time, so she commanded Perith to charge again. Sacrificing just above 15,000 mana, she dispelled the second burst of Seria's fire spell with heat death. Such a huge area for 10,000 mana. How many times can she do that? n/o/vel/b/jn.c//om. A tiny red light appeared around Seria, and a third, precise burst of flames freed her of the rot. Sofia could reapply it if she wanted, but at 10,000 mana every time, she would rather keep it for key moments in the fight when Seria wouldn't have the free time to afford instantly cleansing it. Seria raised her weapon. Sofia felt her send a stream of mana toward Perith, but nothing happened. Perith reached her, unleashing a storm of blows with his two short swords which she met in kind with her fauchar. Sofia kept charging her bolt as Perith traded blows with Seria. So far he had not lost any health, but with every polearm strike he parried and deflected, he seemed to struggle more and more while his blows connected but glanced off of her armor. I need to charge this bolt more. Perith blocked another hit of the polearm, which was maybe the 8th in a row. His weapons shattered and so did his armor as the fauchar's blade sliced through. Name: Perith. Health 2 544 348/2 905 692. What? Teleport. She mentally screamed as Seria raised her weapon again. Perith appeared near Sofia, and almost immediately, a wave of mana hit Sofia. She tried to dispel it with heat death, but it did not activate. Instead, she suddenly found herself near the dead mechanical boss, while she saw Seria's weapon hit Perith again at the entrance of the room. The polearm struck, Perith defended with his arms, they broke both, absorbing most of the blow. Name: Perith. Health 1,821 660/2 905 692. Sofia cursed internally. She almost lost control of her bolt's channeling. It took no genius to understand that the damage had doubled. If the next hit connected and its damage doubled once more, Perith would be left with only a fraction of his health. He teleported to Sofia again and disappeared inside of her armor's storage space. Since he was one of the two blessed constructs of Bone Dominus, his life would be back to full in about a minute, but that was a long time to hold on. The entire fight up until now had lasted about 10 seconds. I need to buy time. It was the right choice to keep paying for the graveyard's upkeep until now. Sofia grabbed one of the skulls above her head, ordering the rest of the choir to spread out in their circle formation. Seria was already charging in Sofia's direction when 100 graveyard skeletons surged from the ground. Somehow, Seria avoided a lot of them without even looking, her body simply teleporting short distances continuously to avoid all the hands, until even that stopped, and 2 of the skeletons managed to grab her. The skeletons were almost instantaneously pushed back by an invisible force, but with a loud bang, the skull of the choir within Sofia's hand flew straight to Seria's face, exploding in a silent burst of invisible blades. The first real combat hit of Saintess madness. The damage was low, not much mana had been invested and the skull did not have much health, but Sofia had hoped for a good element. Yes. Space. One of the best effects she could have gotten. Seria was hit by the space affliction, preventing her from teleporting for the next 10 seconds. Perith instantly came back out to benefit from the 2 stacks of Dominus Blessings heal, as Sofia's bones were the second blessed construct. His arms were slowly regrowing. She tried to switch positions with him earlier, but it failed because of his displacement skills immunity passive. Then she used it on me. I need to keep a distance from my skeletons from now on. The exploding bolt kept on charging. And Sofia called out Bookie again. To replace Perith for now, she summoned the 5 fire salamanders as she flew back. They would hold out well against the fire spell and hopefully be harder to dispatch than the nun. Perith teleported several times to keep up with her, and Seria, free to move again, was hot on their track. She flew past the forming salamanders, not stopping. She used a skill of her own, summoning 10 ghosts of a monster Sofia knew well. Quetzalcoatles. The salamander skeletons brawled with the ghosts, spitting lava at them while Seria came dangerously close to Sofia and Perith. Unwilling to try taking a hit, Sofia let the few backup graveyard skeletons she kept near her pull her underground as she summoned a heavy rain of blood to hinder Seria's vision. With Perith back inside her armor, she would be hard to track from above ground, especially with the rune hiding her mana. Still, the graveyard skeletons spread out, a single one of them quickly carrying her to a far corner of the room while deep underground. Health 31050/31050. Stamina 31097/31149. Mana, 314,940/417,100. The mana is still fine. About 30,000 of that is into this angel bolt, I can't miss. I need to use it before the space element affliction runs out and she can teleport again. The salamanders died. Sofia finally emerged from the ground, far from Seria and her ghosts. She instantly flew up, reaching the ceiling of the room. As if she had eyes on the back of her head, Seria instantly turned to face her, once again running in her direction. Sofia patiently waited, charging up her bolt. The blue plasma was starting to get a bit wild around her scepter. Summoning another ray of light, she covered Seria in rod again. Seria kept charging, her blue weapon shone fiercely as she drew closer. Now! Perith appeared, using his chains of the 4 seals. The glowing chains surged from the ground and the ceiling, grabbing a hold of Seria's limbs. Yet just like the graveyard skeletons before, a forceful wave of magic instantly broke them. Her momentum had barely slowed. She was much faster than Sofia could hope to escape. The way Seria's polearm shone, this was no ordinary strike. It was brimming with mana, and since it was applied on a weapon, heat death might not be able to prevent its effect. Sofia could either block with her scepter and try to activate heat death anyway, her bolt's channeling would likely be interrupted but she might only suffer minor damage, or... Sofia ordered Perith to enter her storage again, wielding her pulsating bolt of plasma like a sword. Her weapon met Seria's. Chapter 288, Seria, Raid Boss, 2. It felt like time stopped as the bolt met the blade. Sofia and Seria were so close. Closer than they had ever been for the last 15 years. Then the bolt exploded. Sofia was blinded by the explosion. In her hands, she felt the scepter snap, and following it, her own body was cut in half diagonally. The wall behind was also torn open, there was nothing but stone behind. There was no stopping the pole arm's spatial cut, but inside the explosion, Sofia felt Seria being blown away. And I'm not dead. She focused on using Bone Dominus to reconnect her armor, before half of her body fell away. She couldn't heal for now but it would be faster for the rune to resurrect her later if everything was still there. The 2 halves of the scepter snapped back together as the light of the bolt's explosion faded. Seria had been blown away quite far, but she was already standing back up, blood dripping from under her mask. Her magical armor was quickly patching up its holes. The armor is weaker against magic than physical attacks. Sofia noted. Her health was already under 20% and dwindling, both her legs and her left arm were no longer connected to her body. But from the outside, she looked unharmed. For a second, Seria stared at the monster of bones that had just blown her up, all the while being seemingly unaffected by her attack. During this same second, Sofia was struggling to cast Spine of the Black Sun as she was quickly losing all her blood inside of her armor. The bone whip appeared just in time for her to strike the ghostly monster birds of Seria that were done dealing with the salamanders and rushed at her instead. The ghosts turned around at the last second, running in all directions except towards her. Right, undead. Nice. Sofia was calculating her next move, grabbing one of the remaining skulls of the choir and letting herself fall to the ground, but Seria did something unexpected. She unsummoned her weapon. This sounded like an alarm bell to Sofia. Her sister wasn't the kind to give up, if she was letting her weapon go. As Sofia feared, Seria raised both hands, and two overlapping red circles of light appeared in the arena. The skull she received in the face with a bang, which exploded in a burst of flesh and blood, did not stop her channeling either. Anti-healing. Useless. Going underground would probably not save Sofia. Do I cancel one? As Seria's spell activated, Sofia dumped as many bones out of her storage as she could around her just as she landed. This wasn't to defend herself, but to disguise her imminent death. Seria's magic erupted. First came a veil of water, like heavy rain, then the second circle's magic resolved. The fire burst. As the large quantities of fire and water met, the entire arena exploded. Sofia's death had only been a matter of time anyway, so to be able to make Seria spend so much mana for a single of her unlife runes was a good trade-off. Still, as she died, Sofia focused on pulling all the bones toward her with Bone Dominus. When the steam explosion cleared out a bit later, Seria was also badly damaged by her own attack. She looked weak, tired. Sofia could see this through Perith's eyes, who had just reappeared out to cover her exit from the resurrection. His arms were almost usable again. Seeing Perith, Seria immediately started casting her two skills again. The red circles appeared once more. All around, the boss arena was crumbling, steel plates fell from the ceiling, everything seemed about to collapse at any moment. Then Sofia, freshly resurrected by her rune, and quickly repairing her armor starting from the outside, stood up from within the pile of bones. To Seria, it looked like nothing she tried ever did more than prevent her opponent from moving a few seconds. Thanks to Sofia's care, her armor looked just as undamaged and clean as it did before the fight. This seemed to shock her sister. How? She mumbled. She took a step back. Intimidated or worried, either way she cancelled her skills, suffering some backlash, and started channeling a new skill. Something else. This time the mana enveloped Seria's body, as if she were about to summon another armor. n/o/vel/b/jn.c//om. Gravity well. Sofia ordered, hoping to interfere with the channeling, and Perith executed. The skill attracted the bones and the room's debris, but it barely started pulling on Seria when another shockwave freed her from the skill's attraction. This again. So annoying. In a desperate attempt, Sofia sent her fastest zap of electricity from a quick-cast Angel's Bolt. Perhaps it might have done something if Seria's armor was conductive, but it wasn't. Seria's magic started to activate, and she immediately recognized the ways the mana flowed around and into her body. It was her turn to be shocked. Demon! Sofia brought out Bookie, and ripped off both the Sandworm and the 10 female Stone Ogre's pages. Totaling 200,000 mana, this was squeezing out every last drop of the book's fog. As the skeletons appeared, she dug holes through her plastron and helmet, and wasted the last bits of her mana to shine a bright light on Seria and covered her with as much Iridian rot as possible. Sofia's mana hit zero right as she saw Seria's body expand and grow from under the rot. I can transform too, sis. Sofia's black heart shot out of her chest, catching it and bringing it to her face, she bit into it. The demon transformation commenced. Perith stood between the two metamorphosing sisters, his hands just regrown, he summoned two shields of light. Sofia silently observed Seria change through Perith's eyes. Her body was quickly growing, enough that her head pierced through the thick film of rot she was covered in. She screamed as her size changed, and the scream turned into a maddening roar. This was not a demon form. This was a dragon form. Seria had grown to become a 5-meter tall, 4-winged blue dragon. She looked down. Breathing a stream of fire and steam at herself, she cleansed her body of the rot. Although she was nothing compared to Aredes, a dragon was a dragon. For the first time in the fight, Sofia felt that maybe she would have to really spend the next 2 months dead, in this room. What was a dragon? Sofia knew, now. They were beings capable of controlling the mana of the planet itself. She could tell that the dragon breath Seria just used had cost her no mana at all. And she was the next target. As soon as her transformation ended, Sofia immediately dispelled all the stone ogre skeletons and absorbed their mana through heat death. It refilled her reserves by almost 200,000 mana, but she still couldn't naturally regenerate due to her 2 remaining runes. Health 53668/53668. Stamina 53668/53668. Mana, 199/200/358/560. The stream of steam and flames followed the movement of Seria's saurian head. Perith jumped to one side and Sofia to the other. She trimmed down her armor as she moved, the bulk was not what she needed anymore. The dragon breath missed them both, but the arena was impacted again. It finally crumbled. Tons of steel and rock fell indiscriminately. Sofia, Perith, and Seria were all instantly buried, deep under seafloor. What now? Perith also didn't lose any health, he's buried like me. Inside a prison of stone, Sofia felt the world shake. She extended her mana senses. Seria was digging in her direction, and fast. Mere stone couldn't stop dragon claws. I broke out of a mountain in this form once. I can dig faster. Flexing her muscles, Sofia cleared some breathing room by cracking the rocks around her, and she punched up. She was going to keep digging like this, trying to reach the ocean. An underwater battle would likely be to her advantage. She simply forgot there was no need for digging. The sandworm pierced through the stone as if it was sand, and Sofia only needed to grab its ribs as it brought her up to the surface. It was not long until Sofia's surroundings transitioned from rock to sand, and from sand to the ocean. Perith finally teleported to join her. Seria will catch up any second. As the adrenaline fell ever so slightly in this instant of respite, Sofia took a second to digest the memory of her sister's terrifying scream as she transformed. It sounded horrifyingly painful. She had never heard Seria scream like this, not even under the slaver's whip. Feeling the tremors of Seria digging up, Sofia needed to move. She grabbed the sandworm and flew up to the surface. There was nothing but water everywhere Sofia looked. It was dusk, the sun slowly descended in the horizon, painting the sky orange. Is this really a fake world? There wasn't so much time to contemplate the question. Sofia felt Seria's mana fast approaching. Flying up as fast as she could, she filled the sandworm with mana. 150,000 will do. Sofia attentively observed the magic as it formed. She brandished the giant skeletal sandworm high in the sky. Today's Saintess Madness forecast is, Light. Chapter 289, Seria, Raid Boss, 3. The affliction from the light element of Saintess Madness was one of the weakest. It only allowed Sofia to always know where the afflicted opponent was, for 60 seconds. Useless to her in demon form, when she could already see in all directions at once. The power of the light element was more so in the direct attack than the affliction. The skill was ready, Sofia had to use every bit of her concentration to hold her body back from moving on its own. The skeleton throw needed to happen fast, or the magic would backlash. 3 eternally long seconds later, a majestic blue dragon erupted from the surface of the sea. Sofia's arm came down, pulling on the sandworm at a speed so inhumane it was a mystery how it did not break. The long skeleton curled down, a shockwave running through its bones. With a bang so loud it sent Sofia reeling, the sandworm was launched, flying as fast as an angel's bowl to meet the emerging dragon. Perith. Appearing mid-air, Perith grabbed Sofia, enveloping her in his arms, summoning his armor to cover them both. The worm collided with the dragon, exploding in another loud but harmless bang, sending millions of bone shards flying in all directions. Sofia did her best to close and cover her many eyes. N/O/vel/B/jn.c//om. Seria might have felt it coming, as Sofia felt strange movements in her mana. Too late. Intense streams of light poured out of the bone fragments, connecting them all and spreading everywhere with violent lasers. The remains of the sandworm were the catalyst that became a deathly cloud of concentrated light. Despite her best efforts, Sofia was still blinded, and her health slowly trickled down every time a stray beam of light cut through Perith's armor and touched her. At least Perith was unaffected and still healing. He was almost back to full. Sofia and Perith had fallen hundreds of meters by the time the light died down, and through Perith's eyes, Sofia saw Seria. Her dragon body riddled with holes, she fell toward the ocean, inert. Was it over? Sofia wondered, but she dared not think it out loud even in her mind. Before hitting the water, Seria's slitted eyes opened, and so did her wings. With a fast turn, she was flying up again, and as she brandished one of her front legs, hundreds of giant moving columns of red light illuminated the sky. In her moment of sentimentality, Sofia had missed a precious attack opportunity, and now, she had to deal with this. How many points of mana must be needed to illuminate so much of the sky? Millions. Perith disappeared and Sofia flew away as fast as she could. She had to swerve around in the sky to avoid the moving columns of light that surrounded her. Seria was pursuing her, and gaining speed. When the magic finally activated, Sofia was just exiting one of the columns of light. The tip of her tail was charred by the giant stream of flames replacing the light. So the armor instantly melts, noted. The second the flames disappeared, Sofia let go of her scepter and activated one of her apostle spells, Regret. Regret, alter the past to make a different decision in the previous 5 seconds, costs 10,000 mana per cast, 10 seconds cooldown. Left leg blood vessels must be undamaged for the skill to correctly resolve. Sofia's body disappeared from where it was, instead reappearing right behind Seria, close enough to instantly grab her tail with both arms and legs. Perith appeared next to her, simply dropping down like a rock. Weak scales, Sofia thought, now that she could see them from up close. Seria was still riddled with holes from the laser attack, and Sofia managed to directly grab the bone tail by plunging her hand in a wound. Seria's hind legs kicked at Sofia, killing her on the spot. But that was part of the plan, or rather, a possibility that had been accounted for. Sofia had gotten what she wanted out of this move, spending almost all of her remaining mana on this attack. The tailbone and lower half of Seria's spine exploded, turning into bone shrapnel inside of her body, while the mana circles in Sofia's left arm had successfully activated. Hollow Heart, hollows out the target's heart. Requires direct physical contact. Costs 10,000 mana per cast. Left arm blood vessels must be undamaged for the skill to correctly resolve. Sofia woke up 3 seconds later underwater within Perith's arms. He had used the momentum of his fall to teleport above her after she died and help her fall faster. Hopefully the water can help protect against all the flames. Only one rune left. Even if the combination resulted in steam explosions like it did in the boss room before, Sofia was much more confident about her resilience when it came to explosions rather than direct heat. Sofia let Perith help her sink further and further down. Sofia looked at her 12,000 last points of mana, then at her tail. No. Let's not. I'm getting pretty strong thanks to one with suffering, but that's not enough. I still got killed in a single hit. If only the light beams hadn't reached me, I could have survived the kick with VPPV. This life is a throwaway, isn't it? Still not strong enough, no mana and can't regen. Ah, she's here. Sofia noticed the mana movements, along with the continued presence of the illusory red crown above her head. This damn thing followed me in the afterlife. Sofia summoned Bookie, only to realize it was still all out of fog. There wasn't even enough to summon the cheapest of the small skeletons. Choir is in cooldown too, Come back inside, Perith. Sofia changed course. It was time for an underwater fight. The dragon appeared, swimming down, the water fluidly flowed against her scales. Clearly Seria had sustained a lot of damage, and yet she was still moving like someone who feels no pain or tiredness. Sofia swam up to meet her. Underwater, she was ever so slightly faster. She avoided a first clawed strike, then a second, moving in the water like in the air, and yet she couldn't see any way to safely land a hit. No matter how fast she moved, Seria always followed. It was hard to get away, and impossible to get closer. Locked in a deadly spiral toward the abyss, both kept sinking further and further down. Seria always prevented Sofia from going up, blocking her path with tail swipes and her dragon breath. She wanted to force Sofia all the way down to the seafloor. There, she would no longer be able to escape. I can still use regret once. The sandy bottom of the abyss made its appearance, and Sofia no longer had a choice. Using almost all of her remaining mana, she reappeared several dozen meters above the dragon and swam up. I need tea. Sofia felt a wave of mana hit her. Suddenly she was back at the very bottom of the sea, and Seria was where she had been. Crap! Without a better solution, Sofia discarded her armor and swam away as fast as she could. Using her claws to dig into her own abdomen, she lowered her life as much as she could without hindering her movements. One with suffering converted each % of lost life to agility, strength, and speed. This gave her the edge she needed to start pulling away for Seria's pursuit. Finally she had some crumbs of breathing space. Until she didn't. Even underwater, she heard Seria roar, and Sofia's mana senses indicated that she had just been isolated. To be more exact, a mana barrier had appeared with Seria at its center, and Sofia was against a border. All the while, the seafloor started quaking. Something else was happening as a result of the mana barrier spell. Probing it with heat death told Sofia that it was not something that would damage her. It seemed Seria couldn't move while she channeled the spell, but Sofia knew that coming closer to attack was just asking for Seria to cancel it and kill her again with a slap. Considering the thickness of the mana barrier, breaking through before the end of the spell cast wasn't an option. Then all that's left. Sofia grabbed her right wing, detached it from her back with Bone Dominus, and tried to throw it. The skill didn't activate. But the armor counts as a skeleton. Right, the armor. Summoning her armor, Sofia did the same again, grabbing her own wing, she activated the Saintess Madness. And with the lowest mana usage she could invest into it, threw herself into the barrier. Sofia collided against the mana barrier and her armor and wings exploded into a burst of wind blades. The whole process had taken about a second. Seria was still channeling. Again. Chapter 290, Seria, Raid Boss, 4. The armor and wings regrew fast, and Sofia threw herself against the wall. Fuck, wind again. Sofia grabbed her wing. A small and weak burst of flames appeared and were instantly drowned as Sofia's body hit the barrier and her armor exploded for the third time. Finally. I was starting to get dizzy. Minor fire resistance is better than no resistance. No mana and one rune left. Looking up at Seria channeling her spell, she really wondered what it was going to be. It's been almost 10 seconds. How was she still moving so much after all this? Seria, you're almost as scary as me. Sofia saw something approaching the barrier from outside. It hit the barrier and was stuck there, on the other side. Oh, my scepter's back? A bit late. I can't get you from inside here, buddy. Sofia's vision shifted. Seria was still in the same place relative to her, but they were no longer underwater but on some kind of very large flat disc. Perith stood halfway between them, both of his shields up and ready. The ink-black sky and weird glossy floor illuminated by a faint bluish light were quite familiar. Seria was also now on top of a pile of gold and jewels sitting at the center of the disc. The ambient mana inside the barrier was so thick it was almost palpable. Outside, there was no mana at all. The margin? And in the fake world? The mana barrier is still there too, around the platform. Seria was no longer channeling but she wasn't attacking yet. Giving me a house tour? This is my lair. In this place you cannot escape, and I am stronger. Seria answered with some difficulties in a broken and raspy voice. Blood trickled out of her maws, but her head stood high. Glad you are taking this seriously. Time for the final act, I suppose, number 2. Are you ready? Sofia asked with a demonic smile on her face, taking a fighting stance and her tail whipping the air behind her. Seria activated some quick magic, and the riches disappeared. She fell down a bit as her support disappeared. Her lower body was clearly a mess due to the lack of bones, but she could still fly. Yes. Sofia nodded in return, and she charged, Perith diving into the action too as his sanctified grounds flared up. Seria opened her maw, a stream of fire making its way toward Sofia. Perith intervened, leaping ahead and meeting the fire with his shields held up together. It seemed he had a hard time maintaining the shields of light, but Perith lost no health, and most fire was diverted to the sides. It gave Sofia the chance to come closer as soon as Seria's breath ran out. Rushing in, she tried to high kick Seria's lower jaw. Her kick missed. Seria retracted her head just in time, and the claws on her left hand started to glow. The spatial attack again. The cast was much faster than before. Sofia could tell it was already ready. Perith grabbed Sofia's tail and pulled her back. She landed behind him and he was the one to take the attack. The dragon claws swiped the air as he was out of reach, but the spatial attack still launched forward like 5 blades capable of cutting space itself. The shields broke, and Perith's armor was sliced through like paper. But Perith's health was still untouched. He had higher magical damage negation, space magic resilience, and displacement skills immunity among his passive skills. He was not far from completely impervious to offensive spatial magic. Sofia stepped forward again, trying to attack with her fists. Seria was very careful not to let herself be touched now. She even avoided Sofia's wings, though her massive body was hindered by how injured she was. It had been no lie that she was stronger in this arena. The duo tried to keep the pressure up, seeing how careful Seria was. The fight was a meticulous back and forth in which Perith was the only one to ever actually take any hits. The first attack to actually land could be devastating for either one. Seria weaved magic through her attacks, sometimes quick casting the fire and water red light spells. But Sofia was fast enough to always avoid them thanks to one with suffering now. In the end, someone made a mistake. As Sofia sent another punch in Seria's way, just as she was about to hit, she felt a stream of mana aimed at her head. She tried to avoid it but she was too close. Even Perith failed to react in time. Sofia and Seria switched places. Seria was now between Perith and Sofia. Perith teleported to Sofia but it was too late. Seria had been preparing the spatial attack by casting it on her tail. She was already swinging her tail behind her when the place swap occurred. By the time Perith appeared next to Sofia, she had been cut diagonally in half, going through the head and down to the hip, dead. Thus, Perith grabbed the half with the largest chunk of head and ran. Seria turned and breathed out a quick fireball, only for Perith to turn around and use his shield to perfectly block it. Next she charged, attacking with her bare claws and mouth. Perith managed to dodge everything by throwing half Sofia away and teleporting to it several times as he spun around madly, thrown around by the accumulating momentum. The 3 extremely long seconds passed, and Sofia's body was rebuilt. The first thing she heard was an angry draconic roar. "Someone sounds frustrated." "I'm back," Sofia announced after her first breath. The mana in the arena was so thick that this one shallow breath filled her back up from 32 points of mana to above 30,000. Seria's roar ended. It was no longer the room that shone with red light, but Seria's entire body. Her broken hind legs were propped up by some weird magic that enveloped her whole like an armor of raw mana. Then the dragon attacked. Sofia had to activate the 3rd tier of Runeforged Overlord to get away, using her omnidirectional free flight to dodge in at the best angles in the shortest time, and yet Seria was still keeping up with her, as if teleporting next to her. Every single one of Seria's attacks were nothing but raw and primal physical force amplified to the limits by the mana around her. After 10 near misses, she stopped for a single beat. Long enough for Sofia to have the spare mental focus to shower her with rotting light.n/o/vel/b/jn.c//om. And the attacks started again. This time they were weaved with draconic breath, spatial attacks, and the areas of fire. It was like Seria had enough mana to last her forever, and her casting speed had quintupled. Sofia inevitably ended up almost taking a hit. Perith was the one to take it for her, allowing her to survive until the end of this cycle of attacks, and to throw even more rot at Seria. Perith was reduced to a lone skull rolling on the floor, but not dead. The mana in the room was growing thinner by the second, and the rot on Seria ravenously devoured all she had. But Seria wasn't done. For the last time, she started her series of 10 unhinged attacks, weaving claw and tail strikes as she and Sofia bounced around against the floor and mana barrier like 2 hyperactive birds in a small cage. 10. 9. 8. Sofia still managed to avoid the attacks. Seria was no longer using magic, the malignant rot spreading like wildfire around the lair as it gorged on the free buffet of mana thick enough to absorb directly from the air. 7. 6. 5. Sofia's brain was overheating, acting almost on instinct. She could only do her best to avoid all the blows. Activating her demonic Bodis magic wasn't even a possibility anymore. The best she could do with so little focus left was to charge an angel's bolt, as she was at a level where she could cast it without thinking. The blue plasma appeared around her arm. 4. 3. 2. Sofia could almost see her victory. She was sure now. Seria was on a last-ditch effort. There would be no 4th series of attacks. 1. Sofia was prevented from dodging by an unexpected slap of Seria's wings. The 5 claws of Seria's left arm raked through her flesh. Of Sofia's torso, there was left only a softly glowing golden spine. Seria opened her jaws for the ultimate fire breath. 1% health left. Sofia released the piercing type angel's bolt. The jagged trait of blue plasma entered Seria's rot-filled mouth and left through the back of her head. The dragon wavered, the heat at the back of its throat died, and it fell to the ground. Perith, heal. Golden light enveloped the fallen dragon whose body was reverting back to that of a young unconscious woman sinking into a sea of black rot. Chapter 290. Paying no mind to her heavily damaged body, Sofia threw herself at the tides of rot, clawing through its pulsating flesh until she reached her sister. She still had some mana, so despite being covered in rot, she was fine. Perith's greater heal had performed as it should. Sofia quickly dumped bones out of her storage, and as her rot wouldn't consume them, used them to dig Seria out of the rot, encasing her in a protective layer of bone, with just a bit of air around her head. The barrier around the platform was growing thinner by the second as the rot consumed its fuel. And before Sofia knew it, she along with Perith's skull and Seria were back to the bottom of the ocean. Sofia rushed to bring everyone to the surface. Quickly making a small boat with her stored bones, she let Seria out of the bone encasing. She lay unconscious on the boat, still wearing her dragon mask. The sun was just finishing to disappear beyond the horizon. Perith's bones were regenerating quickly, imbalancing the boat. He was probably going to notice and return to the bone storage, but before that, Sofia could feel something through the connection of their souls. Usually she was the one communicating, but in a rare event, she was on the receiving end. From the unblinking, unmoving skull, there was no message, no order, no words, just a feeling. Happiness. Sofia smiled. Perith returned to the bone storage. Slowly, Sofia stood up on the bone boat. She walked up to Seria's side. She was breathing peacefully. Perith's heal was potent enough that Sofia did not have to worry about anything. Seria was simply asleep, her mana was recovering and flowing as it should, her heartbeat was calm and steady. "You're so thin, sister. Are you still not eating properly?" After covering her sister with a thin sheet of interwoven bone scales, Sofia laid down next to her. She gazed at the slowly moving light and fuzzy clouds in the darkening sky. Before she knew it, the gentle rolling of the waves and Seria's peaceful breathing lulled her to sleep. Sofia opened her eyes. She felt a bit cold, naked on her boat. Her demon transformation had long ended and her stats were all back to full. It was night. Seria was still sleeping next to her. "This feels unreal." "No, it is unreal." She sat up, fashioning some rigid clothes for herself with some bones. "Better than nothing. Seria at least has her mask." Something softly tapped Sofia in the back of the head. Startled, she turned around. It was her scepter floating behind her. "All right, guess I am not completely naked either, welcome back," Sofia thought as she gave a gentle tap back to the staff, leaving it there for now. Her attention returned to Seria. With all the care in the world, she pried the dragon mask from her face and put it to the side. Sofia couldn't control the smile on her face. Leaning over Seria, she slowly parted her hair. A drop fell on Seria's face. Then another one. Seria moved, stretched with muted moans. She slowly opened her eyes. "Zeph?" the still half-asleep girl asked, sounding lost. As her mind recalled the previous events, Seria was startled to find an unknown face looming above hers. Without thinking she tried to sit up, colliding with the person above. Sofia recoiled from the unexpected blow, and Seria soon recovered, awkwardly distancing herself on the boat, and covering her chest with the bone sheet. Who or why she started to scream at the stranger, suddenly stopping, her mouth agape. Sofia wasn't moving. Unable to stop either her smile or tears, she was simply holding up something for Seria to see. Something that had been almost her entire motivation to focus on training her sculpting with bone dominus. It was a small but intricately detailed, delicate hairpin, in the shape of a particular flower that only grew in the back reaches of Savoln's west coast. The most precious possession of their late mother, one they had traded for food in their most desperate days of starvation. "Seria," Sofia whispered, her voice trembling with emotion, "I'm back." She wanted to say more, 1,000 words battled in her head, impaired by the violent shaking and tears. Seria's eyes widened as she took in Sofia's face, her features softened by the dim glow of the lines under her skin. Her initial shock and fear began to ebb away, replaced by a mixture of disbelief and wonder. "Sofia." Seria's voice quivered as she spoke her sister's name, this time with a hint of recognition. Memories flooded back, and tears welled up in her own eyes. "Sofia, is it really you?" She reached out tentatively, her fingers trembling, as if to touch Sofia's face, as if to make sure this was not another painful dream. Sofia nodded, she wiped her tears with her fists. "I've grown a lot, but it's really me." I found you, big sis. Seria's hand reached Sofia's cheek, and she let out a choked sob. The two sisters, separated for 15 years by a cruel twist of fate, now reunited on a small boat in the middle of the night. They held each other's gaze, sharing a moment of profound emotion that transcended words. Seria let down her hand, her gaze turned distant. You're really real? Right? In the sect? Right? Not a figment of Joe's imagination? Please tell me. The world stopped. The fabric of space unraveled, the sky sundered by otherworldly light. Sofia heard the sound of broken glass. Her eyes were open yet they were closed. A loud bang and the sound of multiple people shouting shook her back to reality. She opened her eyes inside of the stasis chamber in which she floated. The glass of the chamber was cracked. Behind it, a madwoman in a black skin suit, still covered in glistening liquid and with bloodshot eyes, her wet hair sticking to her face, prepared another punch. The door of the stasis chamber exploded, unleashing a wave of stasis fluid in the already flooded room. Seria leaped in, hugging the still groggy Sofia with both arms. You're real. She elatedly whispered between loud sobs. You're real, she repeated several times like she couldn't believe her own words. Struggling to fight the unnatural drowsiness, Sofia weakly hugged her sister back. I am. Seria's heartfelt embrace was too strong, it was hurting her, but she didn't want the moment to end. In the other stasis chambers, the inner disciples were also waking up. At the very end of the room, Joe was cursing and holding his head. Zafir just barged in running through the door, while all the people in white were panicking, trying to manage the sudden chaos. Behind Zafir, Aredes strolled in, amidst the ambient chaos, she nonchalantly called out to Sofia, see, told you just had to win. Good job girl. Sofia chuckled at the loud and confident voice of the dragon. She caressed Seria's hair, you didn't have to make such a mess, I won't disappear. You're the mess. Seria answered, hugging her even tighter. Amidst the mess and the cacophony of voices in the chamber, Sofia and Seria held onto each other tightly. Zafir had joined the people in white, running from one stasis chamber to the other, making sure everyone was fine. Joe, still nursing a headache, stood up and stumbled towards them, his expression a mix of relief and confusion. What in the world is going on? You good, boss? Whydu sever the connect. He stopped his word midway, realizing what was going on. No way. He yelled before clutching his head in pain, reeling. Seria finally loosened her grip, wiping away tears of joy. I can't believe you are really here, Sofia. I thought you were. Sofia grabbed Seria's hands. They were a bit smaller than her own. I survived, like you. I also thought, but then I saw your name in the tower. Seria's expression blanked for a second. The tower, the bones, you. Sofia put a finger over Seria's mouth, she winked. You fought well, number 2. But how? It's a long story. Shouldn't we get out of here first? Seria seemed to finally realize the state of her surroundings, she acquiesced meekly, starting to turn around. And everything became silent. Behind Seria was a lanky man in a brown suit. The black eyes on his perfectly neutral face betrayed no emotion. Unbeknownst to all but Sofia herself, he observed them. Raising a finger, he poked Seria's cheek, and disappeared. Time seemed to start flowing again. Seria suddenly stopped in her movements. After a second, she turned back to look Sofia in the eyes. An uncertain expression on her face, she asked, Afinareth? There was a loud bang. Zafir had been handling the commands of one of the stasis chambers. That brought the number of broken ones up to 3. Sofia laughed nervously.